I was frozen to death alive in the cold palace, and my corpse was only discovered after 3 days. That man I loved for 10 years. The current emperor looked at my stiff corpse and fell silent for a long time. He finally spoke. How did she die? The guard knelt down trembling. Your Majesty, the deposed Empress, froze to death. The new Empress said the Internal Affairs Department was short on funds, and they forgot to supply charcoal to the cold palace. He didn't know that in my last moment before death, I was still waiting for him. But he would never know that when he ordered the coffin open for autopsy, it was already empty inside. I was frozen to death alive on the hard bed in the cold palace. The bone-chilling cold spread from my fingertips to my heart until even my breath turned to ice. My soul floated in midair, looking at my own body. Wearing old palace clothes washed so much they turned white, curled up stiffly, lips blue-purple, with undried tear stains still frozen on my face. So ugly, I'd been dead for 3 days, my body already stiff before anyone noticed. The little eunuch who pushed the door open screamed in fright and scrambled out on all fours. Soon, the person I was waiting for came. That man I loved for 10 years and hated for 3. The current son of heaven, Xiaoshuan. He wore bright yellow dragon robes with a thick black cloak over them, making his features look even more stern and cold. He stood before my corpse, looking at it silently, for a very, very long time, so long that I thought he might show a trace of sorrow. But he didn't. He finally spoke, his voice calm like a pool of stagnant water. How did she die? His personal guard, Zhao Yi, knelt down, trembling, his head knocking against the icy ground. Your Majesty, the deposed Empress, froze to death. Zhao Yi's voice shook terribly. The new Empress said the Imperial Household Department's budget was tight, and they forgot to send coal to the cold palace. Xiao Xuan's eyebrow twitched, and only twitched. I see. He responded indifferently, with nothing more to say. He just looked at my corpse like that, as if looking at a stranger. He didn't know. In my final moment before death, I was still waiting for him. I wanted to ask him, Xiaoshuan, 10 years of affection, do you really not care about it at all? I wanted to ask him, my father guards the borderlands, my brother died in battle. My Ye family is full of loyal martyrs. Is this the ending we get in return? But I never got to. What came was only endless darkness and cold. The new Empress, my younger sister Yi Wanning, soon arrived as well. She wore luxurious palace attire with a bright red cloak outside, making her skin look snow white and her face radiant. She walked to Xiaoshuan's side, leaning softly against him, but her gaze was like a poisoned needle, stabbing toward my corpse. Your Majesty, sister can be considered free now. Her voice was delicate, carrying just the right amount of pity. It is just that sister was too stubborn. How could she not endure it? Xiaoshuan didn't say anything, just reached out and wrapped his arm around her waist. That gesture was like a red-hot blade, stabbing fiercely into my soul. I watched them embrace, watched the undisguised smugness and satisfaction on Yi Wanning's face. I suddenly laughed. The entire Yi family raised such a venomous woman. And I, for such a man, wasted 10 years. Foolish, truly foolish to the extreme. They didn't stay long at the cold palace. Xiaoshuan ordered my corpse to be collected and buried somewhere, according to the rites for a deposed empress. He said somewhere, said it so casually, as if disposing of a piece of trash. After they left, several rough eunuchs came in carrying a flimsy coffin. Their movements were crude, pinching their noses in disgust as they stuffed my stiff body into the coffin. My soul floated in the air, coldly watching all of this. I no longer felt sorrow, no longer felt anger, just found it laughable. Just as they were about to close the coffin lid, I suddenly noticed the inconspicuous silver bracelet on my wrist. It was a keepsake my mother left me, supposedly a gift from some divine physician that could cure 100 poisons. I'd worn it for over 10 years, never taking it off. Before I died, Yi Wanning came to see me. She stood before me, smiling as she said, "Sister, guess why His Majesty detests you so much? Because you've occupied my position for too long. And also because of your father who conspired with the enemy and betrayed the country, and that brother of yours who died under suspicious circumstances." I was so furious at that moment that I spat out a mouthful of blood, but she just smiled and used her handkerchief to wipe the blood stains that had splattered on her shoes. "Don't worry, soon your whole family will be reunited down there." After she left, I died. Now that I think about it, my death probably wasn't as simple as freezing to death. My gaze fell on that silver bracelet. From the depths of my soul came a strange throbbing sensation. Just 1 second before the coffin lid closed, a faint green light shone from inside the bracelet and instantly enveloped my soul. I felt a tremendous pulling force. The world spun around me. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in the freezing cold palace. I was in a warm room. The charcoal fire was burning vigorously. A maid dressed in blue cloth was tucking in the corners of my blanket, muttering, "Miss is really something," insisting on standing in the plum grove on such a cold day. And now look what happened, caught a cold. I sat up abruptly, looking at my own warm and rosy hands, feeling the strong heartbeat in my chest. I came back, I looked at the maid and tentatively called out, "Chintao." Chintao was startled and turned to look at me. "Miss, you are awake. Finally awake. You've been asleep for a whole day." Ignored her and stumbled toward the bronze mirror. In the mirror was the face of a 16 or 17-year-old girl. It is me. It is 16-year-old Zhao Zhao. Before I married Zhao Xuan. Before I became that resentful woman in the deep palace. My father is still guarding the borderlands, and my brother is still doing well too. I've come back. I've really come back. I died in the winter of my 26th year. Now I've returned to 10 years ago. In this life, Xiao Xuan Yi Waning. Everything you owe me, I'll take back one debt at a time, with interest. I was reborn 3 days before father's upcoming deployment. In my last life, it was during these 3 days that I met Xiao Xuan, who was still a prince then. At Puchuo Temple outside the city, he was being hunted down and I saved him. He held my hand and said, "Zhao Zhao, wait for me. I will definitely marry you as my empress with an 8-barrel wedding sedan." I believed him. Believed that man for 10 years. What I got in return was freezing to death in the cold palace. Seeing my expression was off, Chintao asked worriedly, "Miss, are you feeling unwell somewhere?" I shook my head, my eyes cold. "Chintao, go get my account books." Chintao froze for a moment. "Miss, what do you need the account books for?" The Ye family was a military household, but mother was the daughter of a wealthy merchant from Jiangnan. The dowry she left me could rival a nation's wealth. In my last life, all that money became Xiao Xuan's military funds for seizing the throne, became his capital for consolidating his power at court. In the end, that money was taken over by Yi Waning in the name of the Empress. I am truly the biggest fool in the world. Bring it here. My voice carried not a trace of warmth. Chintao didn't dare ask more questions and quickly brought over a thick rosewood box. I opened the box. Inside were dozens of account books along with deeds to shops and fields from various places. I flipped through them page by page, every expenditure cut at my heart like a knife. Third month of the Zhengsheng year, expenditure of 300,000 taels of silver to bribe officials in the Ministry of Revenue for the third Prince Xiao Xuan. Ninth month of the Zhengsheng year, expenditure of 50,000 taels of gold to purchase military weapons for the third Prince Xiao Xuan and expand his private army. Second month of the senior year, sold 3 prosperous shops in the south of the city for 200,000 taels of silver to pull strings for the third Prince Xiao Xuan in pursuit of the crown prince position. Entry by entry, shocking to behold. All of this I had willingly done for him. I thought I was helping my beloved realize his dreams. Little did I know I was only digging my own grave. I picked up a brush and copied everything into a new ledger. Every transaction, I remembered clearly who received money. What matters were handled, I wrote it all down. In my previous life, this ledger was my love for Xiao Xuan. In this life, it will be the talisman that takes his life. I was still organizing when the door was pushed open. A young girl in a pink dress walked in, her face bearing an innocent and bright smile. "Sister, I heard you were ill. Are you feeling better?" It was Yi Waning. Yi Waning at 16 years old. She wasn't yet that vicious empress, just my naive, adorable, and dote-de-pon half-sister. In my previous life, I loved her like my own sister. Whenever I had something good, I think of her first yet behind my back. She hooked up with a man I loved, killed my child, and took everything from me. Looking at that hypocritical face of hers, my stomach churned. I suppressed the nausea and said flatly, "It is nothing now." Her gaze fell on the account book in front of me, curiosity and greed flashing in her eyes. "Sister, you are looking at these again. You are so amazing. I can't understand any of this stuff." In my previous life, she said the same thing. Back then, I even laughed and said, "It is okay. In the future, what is your sister's will all be yours." A prophecy fulfilled. I closed the account book and looked at her coldly. "If you can't understand it, then don't look. This isn't something you should be looking at." My tone was cold. Yi Waning's smile froze on her face. She probably had never seen me speak to her like this before. Her eyes reddened as she said pitifully, "Sister, what is wrong? Did Waning do something to make you angry?" This act of hers was the best at winning sympathy. In my previous life, father and brother were fooled by her just like this. I sneered inwardly. "I am fine, just a bit tired. You should go out first." I issued an order to leave. Yi Wanning bit her lip, tears swirling in her eyes, but ultimately left unwillingly. As soon as she left, Chuntiao whispered, "Miss, you were so fierce to the second miss today. She deserved it," I said coldly. Chuntiao shrank her neck and didn't dare to speak anymore. I knew I had to change my image in the household as soon as possible. I could no longer be that eldest miss who was gentle to everyone, especially always complying with Yi Wanning's every request. I wanted everyone to know that I, Yi Zhaozhao, was not to be messed with. The next day, having recovered from my illness, I went to pay my respects to Father. Father Yi Zhangde was wiping his long spear. Seeing me arrive, a loving smile appeared on his face. "Zhao Zhao, are you feeling better? Your daughter is fine. Father needn't worry." I knelt down and kowtowed to him. Father froze and quickly helped me up. "Child, what are you doing?" I raised my head, my eyes red. "Father, you are about to go to war, and your daughter can't bear to part with you. In my previous life, when father left, it was for 3 years. By the time he returned, I had already married Xiao Xuan and become a canary in the deep palace. We father and daughter never had such an intimate conversation again. Later on, he was falsely accused of colluding with the enemy, and the entire family was executed. I didn't know if that was Xiao Xuan's doing, but it definitely had something to do with him. Father looked at me, his tiger eyes brimming with tears, and patted my shoulder. "Silly child, Dad will be back soon." I shook my head. "Dad, can you take me with you on this campaign?" Father was shocked. "Nonsense. On the battlefield. Swords have no eyes. How can that be a place for a daughter to go?" "Father, I am not afraid." My eyes were firm. "Mother passed away early. Brother has been stationed with the army for years. I don't want to stay in the capital city alone. I didn't want to stay in this vortex that was the capital city. And I didn't want to see Xiao Xuan ever again. I wanted to go to the borderlands, to watch over my father, to watch over the last of my Yi family's kin." Father wanted to persuade me further, but I knelt down directly. "If father doesn't agree, your daughter will remain kneeling." My attitude was resolute. Father looked at me, his eyes full of shock and confusion. Perhaps he couldn't understand why his usually gentle and obedient daughter would suddenly become so stubborn. We were at a standstill when the steward hurried in. "General, someone from the palace has arrived." The steward's expression was somewhat strange. "It is the third prince, your highness." My heart tightened. Xiao Xuan. He still came. He came to the door so quickly. Xiao Xuan came 2 days earlier. Then in my previous life, father frowned, clearly having no favorable impression of this uninvited prince. "Have him wait in the front hall." After father spoke, he lowered his head to look at me, his tone softening somewhat. "Zhao Zhao, get up first. A prince has come in person. Father needs to go see what this is about." I stood up, my eyes cold. "Father, I'll go with you." Father glanced at me, thought for a moment, and nodded. We walked to the front hall together. Xiao Xuan wore a moon-white brocade robe, standing tall and straight with a face like jade. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and a gentle smile appeared on his face. "Zhao Zhao, I came to see you." His voice was very pleasant, with a magnetic quality. In my previous life, I was completely mesmerized by this voice. Now hearing it, I only found it fake and nauseating. I didn't acknowledge him, just stood behind father with my eyes lowered. Father Yi Zhangde cupped his fists and bowed neither humbly nor arrogantly. "We didn't know the third prince would be gracing us with his presence. Please forgive our poor welcome." Xiao Shan's gaze remained on me as if he hadn't heard father's words. "General Ye is too kind." Zhao Zhao and I hit it off at Putua Temple. Hearing she was unwell, I came specially to visit. His words were seamlessly crafted. He both made clear that he knew me and showed his concern for me. Father's brows furrowed even tighter. "My daughter is fine now. Thank you for your highness's concern. If your highness has no other business, please return. My Yi family is about to go to war, and we have much to attend to." This was issuing an order to leave. Xiao Shan's expression stiffened slightly. He probably didn't expect that a general would dare speak to him this way. He put away his smile and looked at Yi Zhangde. "General Yi, this prince came today for another matter as well. This king wishes to propose marriage to you." As he spoke, his eyes burned intensely as he looked at me. "This king wishes to take Zhao Zhao as my primary consort." The front hall fell deathly silent. In my previous life, he said the same thing. Back then, my face flushed red with shame, my heart filled with endless joy and sweetness. Though father was reluctant to part with me, seeing that I was willing, he ultimately agreed. That was the beginning of my nightmare. This time, before father could speak, I stepped forward first. I looked straight at Xiao Xuan, each word clear and precise. "I will not marry you." 3 words, like 3 resounding slaps, struck hard across Xiao Xuan's face. The shock and disbelief on his face was so obvious. "Zhao Zhao, He probably thought I was playing hard to get or just being a shy young girl. He stepped forward, trying to take my hand. Zhao Zhao, don't be afraid. I know this is sudden, but I am sincere. I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. I stepped back, avoiding his hand. I looked at him, my eyes without a shred of affection, only cold disgust. Third prince, please conduct yourself with dignity. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone present to hear clearly. I, Yao Zhao, will absolutely not marry you. Xiao Xuan's face completely darkened. The tenderness and deep affection in his eyes vanished, replaced by sinister coldness and scrutiny. Why? No reason. I said coldly, those who follow different paths cannot make plans together. Marriage is a major matter, requiring parents' orders and a matchmaker's words. My father hasn't agreed yet, and your highness is asking me directly. This doesn't accord with propriety. I brought out my father as a shield. Yi Zhengde immediately understood, stepping forward to block in front of me like an iron tower. Your highness, my daughter is right. She's still young. There is no rush for marriage. Moreover, the Yi family has been loyal for generations. We only wish to serve the country faithfully and don't want to get mixed up in the imperial family's disputes. Father's words were already very clear. Don't want to take sides, and even less want to marry our daughter off to you. Xiao Shuan's face turned green and then white. He took a deep breath, suppressing his anger, and looked at me again. Zhao Zhao, is there some kind of misunderstanding? Have you forgotten our promise at Puchosi Temple? I sneered inwardly. Promise, it was nothing more than a pledge you casually made to save your own life. Puchosi Temple, I don't remember. I lied with my eyes wide open. I only remember that day I was bitten by a mad dog, and after returning home I fell ill and couldn't remember anything clearly. I was pointing at the mulberry to curse the locust, calling him a mad dog. Xiao Shuan's fists clenched inside his sleeves, making cracking sounds. He'd probably never been humiliated like this before. A woman he thought was already in the bag, a woman he thought was utterly devoted to him, was actually humiliating him like this in public. He stared at me, his eyes like he wanted to devour someone. Yao Zhao, very good. He almost said this through gritted teeth. General Ya, this prince's words today remain valid. This prince awaits your reply. With that, he flung his sleeves and left. Watching his angry departing figure, I knew that a grudge had been formed, but this was exactly what I wanted. I wanted him to hate me, to be disgusted by me. Only this way would he stop setting his sights on me, on the Ye family's fortune. After Xiao Shuan left, father turned around and looked at me with a complicated expression. Zhao, Zhao, you really don't want to marry? I don't. I answered decisively. In this life, daughter only wants to stay by father's and brother's side, to be loyal to the Yi family. Father looked at my determined eyes and remained silent for a long time. Finally, he let out a sigh. All right, Dad understands. If you don't want to marry, no one can force you. Pack your things. In 3 days, we march out. A huge weight lifted from my heart, but before I could feel happy, an unexpected person came looking for me. It was the current crown prince, Xiao Shuan's archenemy, Xiao Shui. He had someone send me an invitation, asking to meet me at the green maple forest outside the city. The signature read Pucho Temple, an old friend. Holding the invitation, I froze. In my previous life, there was no one named Xiao Che in my life at all. That day at Pucho Temple, the one I saved was clearly Xiao Xuan. How could there be another old acquaintance? My rebirth seems to have caused some changes I don't know about. I looked at that invitation, my mind clouded with doubt. Should I go to this appointment or not? At the end of the invitation, there was a line of extremely small characters. I know you weren't bitten by a mad dog. To go or not to go? That is the question. Xiao Che, the current crown prince, Xiao Shuan's older brother, and also his greatest political enemy. In my previous life, this crown prince was weak and sickly, and died of illness in the 2nd year after I married Xiao Shuan. Xiao Shuan's smooth ascension to the throne was largely thanks to the crown prince's early death. Thinking about it now, that death from illness was probably full of foul play. A short-lived crown prince, a future emperor. If I get involved with him, it would be no different from courting disaster. But he knows the secret of Pucho Temple. I know you weren't bitten by a mad dog. This one sentence, like a fishhook, firmly hooked my curiosity. I must go. I need to know what exactly my rebirth has changed. I need to know how much more there is that I didn't know in my previous life. I changed into an inconspicuous blue dress and only brought Chantao with me. Just in case, I stole a sharp dagger from my father's study and hid it in my sleeve. Qingfeng Forest is 10 li outside the city. We hired a carriage and arrived quickly. The forest was quiet, the maple leaves hadn't turned red yet, and everywhere was lush green. A guard dressed in black-fitted attire was waiting for us at the forest edge. When he saw me, he clasped his fist in salute, brief and to the point. Miss Yi, His Highness is waiting for you inside. I had Chuntao wait outside the forest while I followed the guard inside. Deep in the forest, there was a small pavilion. A young man wearing a dark green robe was sitting in the pavilion with his back to me, brewing a pot of tea. Hearing footsteps, he didn't turn around. You are here. His voice was very gentle, like a piece of fine warm jade, yet it also carried the weakness of someone long ill. I stopped outside the pavilion, not going in. Crown Prince, Your Highness. I curtsied slightly, my tone distant. He seemed to chuckle softly and turned around. What a refined and handsome face it was. Features like a painting, complexion pale from years without sunlight. Yet his lips bore a sickly red. He looked at me, his gaze gentle yet carrying a sharp insight that saw through everything. He and Xiao Xuan were two completely different types of people. Xiao Xuan was a raging fire, domineering and scorching, while Xiao Shui was deep water, calm on the surface but unfathomable within. Miss Yi, no need for formalities. Please sit. He pointed at the stone stool across from us. I didn't move. Your Highness summoned me here. Whatever the matter is, please speak directly. I didn't want to beat around the bush with him. He nodded, seemingly appreciating my directness. Fine, then I'll speak plainly. He lifted his eyes, looking at me with a clear gaze. That day at Puqiu Temple, the one being hunted wasn't just Xiao Xuan alone. My heart jolted. He continued. To be precise, those assassins' primary target was me. Xiao Xuan was merely a bonus they wanted to eliminate while they were at it. My breathing caught. This was completely different from what I knew in my previous life. That day, my people fought desperately to help me escape. I hid in the shadows and witnessed everything with my own eyes. I saw you save Xiao Xuan. I also saw how Xiao Xuan afterwards silenced witnesses, disposing of those assassins who knew of his pathetic state and your maidservant. My mind went buzz and went completely blank. Maidservant. That day at Puqiu Temple, there was indeed a young maidservant with me. Later she said she got separated from her family, so I gave her some money and sent her home. So she hadn't gotten separated. She was dead, silenced by Xiao Xuan. A chill shot straight from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. What I thought was a heroic rescue, what I thought was a heartfelt devotion, turns out from the very beginning, it was all built on lies and blood. Xiao Xue looked at me quietly, taking in all my shock and horror. So Miss Yi, do you still think now that Xiao Xuan is someone worth entrusting your life to? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and when I opened them again, they were ice cold. He is not. He never was. A flash of approval crossed Xiao Chei's eyes. You are a clever girl, even cleverer than I imagined. He poured me a cup of tea and pushed it in front of me. So then, clever Miss Yi, you've rejected Xiao Xuan's marriage proposal. What do you plan to do next? Follow your father to the borderlands. Do you think Xiao Xuan will let you go that easily? Let go of the Ye family's wealth that easily? His words struck straight at the heart. Right? How could I forget Xiao Xuan is someone who always seeks revenge for the smallest slight. After I made him lose face in public today, how could he just let it go? If I leave, he can't touch me, but the Yi family clan members staying in the capital city and those shops and estates will all become his targets. I looked at Xiao Chei. What does your highness mean? Cooperate with me. He was straightforward. I need the Yi family support, or rather neutrality. And I can provide you with protection, as well as everything you want to know. For example, the cause of your brother Ye Mingyuan's death, and for instance, the charge of collaborating with the enemy that your father will face in the future. My hand suddenly clenched the dagger in my sleeve. How could he know these things? These were all things that wouldn't happen until several years later in my previous life. Could it be I stared at him intently, an absurd thought surfacing in my mind? You are also reborn. Hearing this, Xiao Che froze for a moment. Then he smiled. It was an extremely complex smile, carrying understanding, carrying compassion, and also carrying the mutual sympathy of fellow wanderers who had fallen on hard times. He didn't answer me directly. He simply picked up his teacup, took a light sip, then looked into the distance and said softly, "The day I died, the snow fell heavily." Even heavier than the day you died. My heart completely sank. It is him. He is too. We're both evil spirits who crawled back from hell. It is just that he is here for revenge. And I am too. I stepped forward and sat across from him. I picked up that cup of tea and drank it all in one gulp. Cooperation is acceptable, I said. But your highness, where is your sincerity? Just a few words about the previous life aren't enough. Xiao Che smiled. He took out a small porcelain bottle from his sleeve and pushed it in front of me. This is the first token of sincerity. Go back and check that golden hairpin your sister Yi Wanning gave you. The pearls on it have been soaked in a slow-acting poison called snail wither. Colorless and odorless, wearing it long-term will cause deficiency of both qi and blood, cold intolerance and physical weakness, and eventually lead to death from a cold during winter, seemingly by accident. My pupils suddenly contracted. Snow wither, cold intolerance, and physical weakness, death from a cold. Isn't this exactly how I died in my previous life? So I wasn't frozen to death. I was poisoned to death. It was Yi Wanning who started poisoning me from a long time ago. A towering wave of hatred nearly consumed my sanity. Xiao Che looked at me, his voice still gentle. Miss Yi, now, is my sincerity enough? I raised my head, looked at him, and said word by word, it is enough. Returning to the Yi residence, it was already late. I had Chandao return to her room first, while I went to the storage room myself. The golden hairpin Yi Wanning gave me was too ornate, so I never wore it and kept it in the jewelry box in the storage room. I opened the box and found that Baiyao hairpin. The gold threads were intricate, the craftsmanship exquisite, with a plump and lustrous eastern pearl embedded at the top, its sheen smooth and radiant. It looked perfectly fine. I took out the small porcelain bottle Xiao Che had given me and poured a bit of white powder onto my fingertip. He told me this was the antidote for snow wither and also its reagent. It turns black upon contact with the poison. I gently sprinkled the powder onto that eastern pearl. The powder fell silent and soundless, but the next moment, something eerie happened. That pure white powder, as if soaked in ink, rapidly turned into a pure, heart-palpitating black. The evidence was irrefutable. Holding that Baiyao hairpin, my blood boiling, I could barely stand steady. Yi Wanning, my dear sister. In my last life, just how blind was I to be deceived by that innocent face of yours for a whole 10 years? Since when did you start wishing for my death? Was it from when I was designated as the legitimate daughter of the Yi family, or from when my engagement with Xiaoshen was arranged? I gripped that Baiyao hairpin tightly, the sharp tip of the golden hairpin piercing my palm, blood flowing out. Yet I felt no pain whatsoever. Number, I can't just go confront her like this. With her cunning, she would never admit it. With fathers doting on her without absolute proof, it would just end up being dropped in the end. I want her to admit it in person in front of everyone. I calmed myself down, I put the Baiyao back in the box, wiped the blood from my palms, and regained my composure. Early the next morning, I sent someone to fetch Yi Wanning. I said I had treated her poorly yesterday and felt guilty about it, so I specially prepared some pastries she loved to make amends. Yi Wanning came very quickly. She still had that delicate and pitiful appearance. Seeing me, she timidly called out, "Sister." I took her hand, had her sit down, wearing a guilty smile on my face. Wanning, yesterday was my fault. I just got sick and was in a foul mood. Don't take it to heart. Yi Wanning hurriedly shook her head, her eyes reddening. Of course not, sister. Wanning knows sister didn't mean it. Wanning only hopes sister's health gets better soon. Such deep sisterly affection. I sneered inwardly, but my expression grew even gentler. Wanning is still the most thoughtful. I picked up a piece of osmanthus cake and brought it to her lips. Come, try it. This is your favorite. She obediently opened her mouth and ate it. We chatted, sharing some girls' private talk. The atmosphere was so harmonious. It was as if yesterday's unpleasantness had never happened. Shantao watched from the side, her face also showing a relieved smile. She probably thought that her kind and amiable young mistress had returned. I brought it up as if unintentionally. All right, Wanning, that gold Baiyao you gave me before. I can't find it. Do you remember where I put it? Hold on, let me break down the brilliance of this section for everyone. The female lead just got reborn. The female lead just got reborn, and facing this concubine-born younger sister who caused her death. She doesn't immediately tear off the facade or lose emotional control. Instead, she acts. On the surface, she is gentle and apologetic, but actually she is setting up her game. This is my favorite type of female lead setup, not rashly going in for the attack, but first stabilizing the opponent, gathering evidence, then delivering a lethal strike. The most satisfying thing about rebirth stories isn't how strong the golden finger is, but how the female lead uses her past life's memories to toy with everyone who schemed against her. This kind of, I know you'll harm me, but I am going to make you personally send yourself to hell operation. That is true dimensional domination. A flash of panic crossed Yi Wanning's eyes. Can't find it. How could that be? Didn't sister put it in the jewelry box in the storage room? Did I? I don't remember that. I pretended to be troubled. That was the first piece of jewelry you gave me. I treasured it so much, I can't have lost it. As I spoke, I observed her expression. Her hands clenched slightly inside her sleeves. Don't worry, sister, maybe the servants misplaced it while tidying up. I'll help you look for it later. That won't be necessary. I smiled. I've already sent people to look for it. By now, there should be results. As I said this, I glanced toward the doorway. The butler led 2 rough-work servants in. In the servants' hands was a tray covered with red cloth. The butler bowed and said, "Eldest miss, we found what you asked for." Yuaning's face instantly turned a shade paler. I said with a smile, "Good that you found it. Quick, let me see." The butler placed the tray on the table and lifted the red cloth. On the tray lay the golden buyao hairpin quietly. However, the buyao now looked vastly different from before. The originally lustrous eastern pearl now looked as if it had been burned by fire, displaying an eerie grayish-black color. The entire room instantly felt deathly silent. Yuaning looked at that pearl, the color draining completely from her face. Her whole body was trembling. I picked up the buyao and let out a "ya," as if surprised. What is going on here? How did a perfectly fine pearl turn this color? I looked at Yuaning, my eyes innocent and confused. "Waning, do you know?" Yuaning's lips trembled, unable to utter a single word. The butler and servants also saw it, each showing expressions of shock and horror. I sighed, looking all naive. I heard people say that silver can test for poison, and if it touches something highly toxic, it'll turn black. But this eastern pearl isn't silver, so why would it turn black too? How strange. I held the buyao up in front of Yuaning. "Waning, you are the smartest. Come help your sister look at this. What exactly is going on here?" That hair ornament, like a viper, was held right before her eyes by me. "Yay!" Waning screamed and shot up from her chair, retreating again and again. "No, it wasn't me. I don't know," she shouted, losing control. With that, everyone could tell something was wrong. I withdrew my hand, the smile on my face gradually turning cold. I looked at her, my gaze like I was looking at a dead person. "You don't know. Yuaning, you personally gave me this hair ornament. Now something's wrong with it, and you are telling me you don't know." My voice wasn't loud yet. It pierced everyone's ears like an ice pick. Yuaning's psychological defenses completely collapsed. She collapsed to the ground, pointing at me, speaking incoherently. "It is you. You are the one who set me up. This hair ornament was fine when I got it back. You must have tampered with it to frame me." She started biting back. This was within my expectations. I wasn't angry. Instead, I smiled. "Frame you? Little sister, if I wanted to frame you, why would I use such a troublesome method? I'd only need to tell father that I saw you and the third prince exchanging tokens in private. Guess what? Would father believe me or believe you?" Yuaning's face instantly turned as white as paper. Her affair with Xiaoshuan, she thought she'd done it flawlessly. Little did they know, I am someone who came back from hell, and I know all about their dirty deeds, crystal clear. She looked at me in terror, as if she was seeing me for the first time. "You, who exactly are you? I am your sister." I slowly crouched down, leaned close to her ear, and spoke softly in a voice only the two of us could hear. "A sister who crawled back from hell to collect the debt you owe me." Yuaning's pupils dilated from extreme fear. She let out an inhuman shriek, then her eyes rolled back and she actually fainted from sheer fright. I stood up, looking at Yuaning unconscious on the ground, my eyes calm. I said to the butler, "Go, bring father here. The good show has only just begun." Father arrived very quickly. As soon as he entered, he saw Yuaning collapse on the ground, and that gold buyao with its eerie color on the table. His face darkened. "What is going on here?" I told him the whole story from beginning to end, exactly as it happened. Of course, I left out the part about Xiao Che. I only said that I accidentally discovered the silverware in the manor would turn black when it touched this hairpin, became suspicious, and that led to today's test. I spoke calmly and with restraint, without embellishment, just stating the facts. But every word was like a heavy hammer pounding on father's heart. After hearing everything, father fell silent. He picked up that buyao and examined it carefully. He had spent his entire life in military service and was not completely ignorant about poisons. He could tell that the poison on this bead was by no means ordinary. It was a sinister substance capable of killing without a trace. His hands began to tremble slightly. Not out of fear, but out of anger, extreme anger. His most beloved youngest daughter had actually tried to use such a vicious method to harm his legitimate eldest daughter. This was a family disgrace. This was a scandal. Wake her up. Father's voice seemed to squeeze out from between his teeth, carrying a terrifying, murderous aura. The old servant woman stepped forward, pinching Yi Waning's philtrum, and splashed a cup of cold tea on her. Yi Waning slowly regained consciousness. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw father's ashen face full of murderous intent. She was scared out of her wits, crawling and rolling to kneel at father's feet. Dad, Dad, let me explain. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. It was Yi Zhao. She framed me. Even at this point, she was still making excuses. Father kicked her in the chest. Yi Waning flew out like a broken rag doll, crashed into the corner of a table, and spat out a mouthful of blood. You wretched creature. Father roared, his voice shaking the roof tiles. Even now, you still dare to make excuses. This buyout, did you or did you not give it to your older sister? Yi Waning lay on the ground, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Yes, but I didn't know it was poisoned. It was a third prince. It was someone from the third prince who gave it to me. She said it was a treasure from the western regions, that wearing it would beautify the skin. So I gave it to sister. She pushed all the responsibility onto Xiaoshuan. This woman really couldn't get her priorities straight even till death. She thought by bringing up Xiaoshuan, father would be wary of taking action. But she didn't know that what father hated most was the princes setting their sights on his daughters. What is more, using such underhanded methods? What a third prince! Father laughed in anger, the killing intent in his eyes growing thicker. What a Yi Waning, summon! Father shouted sternly, bring the family discipline. The butler and servants were also frightened. They fell to their knees. The Yi family's disciplinary tool was a long whip braided from cowhide, rarely used, once used. Even if you didn't die, you'd lose a layer of skin. Hearing the words family discipline, Yi Waning was completely scared stiff. She frantically kowtowed, crying and shouting. Father, no, your daughter knows she was wrong. Your daughter will never dare again. Please spare me this once. I stood to the side, watching coldly. Spare you? In my past life, did you ever spare me? Spare my unborn child? Spare the loyal souls of my entire Yi family? Soon, the family punishment tools were brought in. Father personally picked up the whip and pointed at Yi Waning. Tee her up for me. Beat her. Two strong and sturdy women dragged Yi Waning like dragging a dead dog. Yi Waning's cries, screams, and pleas for mercy echoed throughout the entire courtyard. Father showed no mercy whatsoever. One lash, another lash, whipping down mercilessly. Each lash came with a sound of wind. Each lash left a bloody mark. Soon Yi Waning fell silent, leaving only weak moans. Looking at her mangled and bloody back, I felt no pity in my heart, only satisfaction. This was merely the interest. After a full 30 lashes, Father finally stopped. Yi Waning had become a bloody mess, lying on the ground with barely any breath left. Father threw down the whip, his voice ice cold. From today on, lock this wretched creature in the woodshed. Without my orders, no one is permitted to visit her. After I depart for the campaign, send her immediately to Jing'an Hall outside the city to take Buddhist vows. She shall never return to the capital for the rest of her life. Jing'an Hall, nominally a nunnery, was actually a private prison for the Yi family to punish errant female relatives. No one who entered ever came out alive. Father was taking her life. This punishment was even harsher than I had anticipated. I understood in my heart that father did this for two reasons. First, to vent my anger, and second, to make an example out of someone. He was warning certain people that the daughter of the Yi family is not to be trifled with. Anyone who messes with Yi Zhangde's daughter must be prepared to face his thunderous wrath. After dealing with Yi Waning, father's gaze fell on me. The rage in his eyes had dissipated, leaving only deep exhaustion and guilt. Zhao Zhao, it is dad who has wronged you. I stepped forward and gently smoothed out his furrowed brows. Dad, this isn't your fault. Your daughter only feels fortunate that we discovered it early, before any great disaster occurred. Father gripped my hand and let out a heavy sigh. The third prince, Xiaoshuan, as he spoke this name, his eyes showed undisguised killing intent. I knew that from this moment on, my overprotective general father had already marked Xiaoshuan as his #1 enemy. My goal had been achieved. 3 days later, the army set out. I wore a sharp riding outfit. Following beside father, Yi Waning had already been secretly sent to Jing'an Hall. Xiaoshuan had also been turned away by father under the pretext of busy military affairs. I thought I could temporarily escape the huge whirlpool that was the capital city. I thought I could finally start my new life, but I was wrong, just as our procession was about to leave the city gate. A squad of imperial guards blocked our path. Leading them was none other than Xiaoshuan's personal guard, Zhao Yi. He sat high on his horse, holding a scroll of bright yellow imperial edict in his hands, his face unable to hide his smugness. He cleared his throat and read aloud in a shrill voice. The imperial edict has arrived. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. It has come to our attention that General Yi Zhangde's daughter, Yi Zhaozhao, is skilled and gracious, gentle and virtuous, which brings us great joy. To fulfill this union of beauty, we hereby betroth you to the third Prince Xiaoshuan as his principal consort to be wed in 1 month. To demonstrate imperial favor, General Yi Zhangde is specially commanded to remain in the capital to oversee preparations, and the military campaign shall be postponed for the time being. By imperial order, when the edict finished, the surroundings fell deathly silent. I sat on my horse, the blood in my body growing cold inch by inch. An imperial marriage decree. Father had been detained, Xiaoshuan. He actually mobilized the emperor. He not only wanted to possess me, but also wanted to use me to control my father. What a brilliant move to pull the rug out from under us. I looked at Zhao Yi's face, so full of petty triumph, and at the rows of gleaming weapons behind him. I knew that I had ultimately underestimated this man's shamelessness and viciousness. I couldn't escape anymore. The imperial edict crashed down like a mountain. It pressed down so heavily I couldn't breathe, and it forced even my father's proud backbone to bend temporarily. He dismounted and knelt on one knee, his voice hoarse. Your subject, Yi Zhangde, receives the imperial edict. I also dismounted and knelt beside him. That bright yellow silk stung my eyes painfully. Zhao Yi handed the imperial edict to father with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, his gaze sweeping contemptuously across my face. General Yi, Miss Yi, congratulations. His Majesty and the third prince really cared deeply about Miss Yi. General, you'd better hurry back to the mansion and prepare the dowry. His words, each one like a needle, pierced my heart. Father's hand, gripping the imperial edict, showed bulging veins. I knew what humiliation and rage filled his heart. The army couldn't march out, and he, the commander, was forcibly kept in the capital city, nominally to manage the wedding, but actually as a hostage. With one imperial edict, the emperor stripped my father of his military authority and bound our entire Yi family to Xiaoshuan's war chariot. We had all become pawns. Back in the mansion, the atmosphere was unbearably oppressive. Father shut himself in the study and didn't come out for a day and a night. I knew he was trying to find a way out. But a sovereign's word is final. The emperor's words are golden. This marriage-bestowing imperial edict was a shackle impossible to break free from. Chunta was so anxious she kept crying. Miss, what should we do? Are you really going to marry that third prince? I sat by the window looking at the gloomy grey sky outside, my eyes terrifyingly calm. Marry. In my last life, I married in grand style, carried in an 8-bearer bridal sedan. What did that get me in return? My entire family executed, frozen to death in the cold palace. In this life, I will never repeat the same mistakes. Xiaoshuan, you want me. You want the Ye family's wealth. Fine, I just fear you have the life to take it, but not the life to enjoy it. I had Changtao fetch me paper and brush. I wrote 2 letters. Onan was for Crown Prince Xiao Che. The letter had only 8 words. The fish is in the net. When will you reel in the line? The other was for my brother Yi Mingyuan. It told him that trouble had erupted in the capital. Father was trapped and he should immediately consolidate the Yi family army at the borderlands and prepare for the worst. I told him he must be careful and guard against a man in the army called Vice General Wang. In my last life, it was this Vice General Wang who found the evidence of father colluding with the enemy at the most critical moment. He was a chess piece Xiaoshuan had planted in the army long ago. After finishing the letters, I sealed them in a special way and gave them to the most trusted personal guard in the mansion. Write day and night, deliver one to the Eastern Palace, one to Yanmen Pass. Tell them the Ye family has reached a life-or-death moment. The personal guard received the order and left. After doing all this, I stood up and pushed open the door to Father's study. Father hadn't slept all night and some white hairs had actually appeared at his temples. When he saw me, his eyes were full of exhaustion and heartache. Zhao Zhao, it is father who is useless. I shook my head, walked to his side and poured him a cup of hot tea. Dad, this isn't your fault. It is them. They've gone too far. I looked at father, my eyes resolute. Dad, I've made up my mind. I'll marry him. Father's head shot up, staring at me in disbelief. What did you say? I said, I'll marry him. I repeated it, my voice not loud, but firm and resolute. Zhao Zhao, have you lost your mind? Even if it costs me this old life, I will never let you marry that kind of person. Father stood up in agitation. Dad, hear me out. I helped him sit back down, my eyes calm and composed. Unlike a 16-year-old girl, the imperial edict has been issued. We have no way out. To resist is to defy the edict, to commit treason. When that happens, not only you as father and daughter, but the entire Yi clan will be buried with us. If I don't marry, they have plenty of ways to force us to comply. Father fell silent. He knew I was speaking the truth. So your daughter will marry. I looked at father, speaking word by word. But not now. The emperor only said the wedding is in 1 month. He didn't say we can't make demands. Dad, go to the palace right now. You must see His Majesty the Emperor. Tell him that the Yi family will never marry off a daughter shabbily. My dowry, Yi Zhao Zhao's dowry, needs time to sort out. 1 month is too rushed. Ask him for 3 months. These 3 months are the last time your daughter can fight for the Yi family, for you, and for elder brother. Father looked at me, his eyes full of shock. It was as if he was meeting his daughter for the first time. That daughter, in his impression gentle, delicate, who only knew of romantic pleasures, seemed to have transformed overnight, as if reborn. In her eyes, there was now something he recognized, the decisive killing intent that belonged to descendants of a military family. He fell silent for a long time and finally nodded heavily. All right. Father will go fight for these 3 months for you. Father entered the palace. He left quickly and returned quickly as well. The emperor agreed. Perhaps in his view, 3 months was of no great consequence. The Yi family was already in his pocket. A month earlier or later made no difference. He even hypocritically consoled father, saying he would definitely hold the grandest wedding for me. Utterly hypocritical. The wedding date was set for 3 months later. This news quickly spread throughout the capital city. Everyone thought that Ye Zhao Zhao had climbed up to a high branch and was about to become the 3rd princess consort, the future empress. The Ye family would also soon become the most influential in-laws of the imperial family. For a time, the Ye residence had an endless stream of visitors, with people coming to curry favor and flatter without end. Xiaoshan also sent people to deliver countless rare treasures and fine silks and satins, as if to make up for the previous unpleasantness and display his affection for me. I threw all those things into the storeroom without even glancing at them. I was waiting for Xiao Shei's reply. 3 days later, the reply came. It wasn't a letter, but an invitation. Crown Prince Xiao Chao was going to hold a flower viewing banquet at the Eastern Palace, inviting all the royal nobles and young talents in the capital, including the 3rd prince, Xiao Shan, and his fiancée Mi. At the end of the invitation, a single line was written in extremely small, elegant calligraphy. The home banquet is prepared. Are you willing to wield the blade? I looked at that line and smiled. Xiao Che never wanted to get involved in the struggle between you two brothers. But you just had to drag me into it. If that is the case, then don't blame me for setting fire to these muddy waters. The flower viewing banquet at the Eastern Palace was set for early autumn. The garden full of chrysanthemums was in full bloom, golden, white, purple, competing in beauty. The air was filled with the crisp fragrance of chrysanthemums, but what I smelled was the scent of schemes and calculations. I wore a water blue gown with a few butterflies about to take flight embroidered on the hem, plain, yet elegant. I wasn't wearing any of the jewelry Xiao Xuan had sent. I walked into the Eastern Palace garden holding my father's arm. Immediately, I became the center of attention. Countless gazes shot over, filled with scrutiny, jealousy, and envy. I kept my eyes straight ahead, my expression calm. Xiao Xuan quickly came forward to greet us. Today he wore a dark red brocade robe with python patterns embroidered in gold thread, making him look imposingly noble. When he saw me, amazement flashed in his eyes, but then he noticed my plain attire and his brows furrowed almost imperceptibly. Zhao Zhao, you are here. He smiled gently, as if there had never been any unpleasantness between us. He tried to take my hand, but I dodged to the side. I curtsied slightly, my tone distant. Greetings, Your Highness, the 3rd Prince. Xiao Xuan's expression stiffened, but with so many people watching, he couldn't lose his temper. He could only laugh awkwardly and say, Zhao Zhao, we're about to be married. Why be so formal? I didn't say anything. Father stepped forward, positioning himself between me and Xiao Xuan. Your Highness, my daughter is shy. Please forgive her. Xiao Xuan's gaze met father's in the air, sparks flying. Just then, a gentle voice broke the deadlock. General Yi, Miss Yi, what rare guests. Crown Prince Xiao Chao, sitting in a wheelchair padded with thick cushions, was wheeled over. He still had that frail appearance, pale-faced, occasionally coughing a couple of times. But his eyes were strikingly bright. Everyone stepped forward to pay their respects. Greetings, Your Highness, the Crown Prince. Xiao Chao waved his hand, signaling everyone to rise. His gaze fell on me, lingering for a moment with a smile. Miss Yi, you are truly radiant today. I heard that Miss Yi and my third brother have tied a knot, but I haven't had the chance to congratulate you yet. Today is perfect. I should toast to you both." As he spoke, he had someone pour the wine. Xiao Shan's expression looked somewhat unpleasant. Everyone knew that the crown prince and the third prince were openly and secretly at odds like fire and water. His blessing today sounded just like a weasel paying New Year's respects to a chicken, no matter how you heard it, but he couldn't refuse it. Xiao Shan picked up his wine cup, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Thank you, Imperial brother." I stood quietly to the side, watching them act out their brotherly affection. The banquet began. Music and dance flourished. Wine cups exchanged freely. I was arranged to sit beside Xiao Xuan. He kept serving me food and saying intimate words, working hard to create the illusion before everyone that we were deeply in love. I remained silent throughout, neither playing along nor resisting. Like an exquisite puppet, after 3 rounds of drinks, the main act arrived. Xiao Chao clapped his hands and the music and dance stopped. He smiled at everyone, admiring chrysanthemums today without any entertainment to liven things up would be such a shame. I heard that third brother recently acquired a Western region dancer in the mansion whose dancing is exceptional. Why not invite her to perform a dance for us all? What do you say? Xiao Xuan's expression changed instantly. He instinctively glanced at me. I remained expressionless, as if I hadn't heard anything. But my heart was sneering coldly. A Western region dancing girl. In my previous life, it was this dancing girl who appeared in our bridal chamber on the night of my wedding to Xiao Shan, in order to humiliate me, to tell me that I, Yao Zhao Zhao, meant nothing in his heart, tangled with that dancing girl all night long right in front of me. That was the most humiliating night of my entire life. Xiao Che, he actually knows about this. This move of his is truly ruthless and precise. In front of all the civil and military officials, in front of me, his fiancée, he exposed Xiao Xuan's secret keeping of the dancing girl. This not only slapped Xiao Shan's face, but also slapped the Empress' face. And more, he is venting my anger for me. Cold sweat seeped out on Xiao Shan's forehead. He forced a smile and said, "Imperial brother is joking. She's just a dancing girl, crude and vulgar. How could she perform at Imperial brother's banquet and make a fool of herself?" "Oh," Xiao Che raised an eyebrow. "If third brother keeps her hidden like a treasure, she must be no ordinary goods. Why must third brother be so stingy? Or is it, third brother is afraid Miss Yi will be angry?" He kicked the ball to my court. In an instant, everyone's eyes focused on me, watching how I would react. Would I magnanimously express that I didn't mind, or would I jealously throw a tantrum? Xiao Shan also looked at me nervously, his eyes carrying a warning. I slowly put down the chopsticks in my hand, picked up the silk handkerchief and wiped the corners of my mouth. Then I raised my head, looked at Xiao Che and smiled slightly. That smile faint gentle, yet tinged with an indescribable distance. "Your Highness jests." My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly throughout the entire venue. A real man having 3 wives and 4 concubines is perfectly normal. What is more for someone as exceptional as the third prince? Since I am your Highness's fiancée, I should naturally manage the inner quarters well for you, virtuous and without jealousy. A mere dancing girl, if I minded such a thing, wouldn't that make me, Ye Zhao Zhao, look petty and unrefined? My words were spoken flawlessly, leaving no room for criticism. I both displayed the magnanimity of a noble lady and positioned myself on extremely high ground. I am the future Imperial Princess Consort. How could I stoop to squabbling with a dancing girl? Xiao Shan breathed a sigh of relief and shot me a grateful look. In Xiao Sha's eyes, however, a flash of disappointment appeared. He probably thought I would seize this opportunity to make a scene and humiliate Xiao Xuan, but I deliberately wouldn't. "Xiao Xuan, I'll slap your face with my own hands. No need to borrow anyone else's." I paused briefly, then shifted my tone and continued. "However, today is Crown Prince's flower viewing banquet. A gentleman delights in fulfilling others' wishes. Since your Highness wishes to see her, then why not invite her? What harm could there be?" I looked toward Xiao Xuan, my smile growing even more gentle. "Your Highness, what do you say?" I tossed the dilemma right back to Xiao Xuan. This time, he had absolutely no way out. If he kept making excuses, it would be disrespecting the crown prince and make him look guilty too. Xiao Shan's face turned the color of pig liver. He stared at me intently as if trying to bore a hole through my face with his eyes. He probably couldn't figure out what I was really up to. Finally, he squeezed out a few words through clenched teeth. Fine, Saman, go, bring her here. The dancing girl was brought over quickly. Her name was Yuenu. True to her name, she was as beautiful as a fairy from the Moon Palace. Draped in a fiery red dancing costume, bare feet, with golden bells tied around her wrists and ankles. As she moved, they jingled and jangled, enchanting and captivating. As soon as she appeared, she drew everyone's attention, especially those young masters. Their eyes went straight. In Xiaoshuan's eyes, infatuation and possessiveness also flashed. I watched quietly, watching this woman who, in my previous life, had humiliated me so greatly on my wedding night. She truly was beautiful, devastatingly beautiful, like a rose with thorns. Yuanyu gave a graceful bow to Xiao Che and Xiaoshuan, her voice seductively sweet to the bone. Yuanyu pays respects to Your Highness, the Crown Prince, Your Highness, the Third Prince, Your Highness, the Third Prince. Her gaze swept across my face, subtly carrying provocation and disdain. Xiao Che raised his hand slightly. Begin, the music starts. It is drums and strings full of exotic flavor. Yuanu begins to dance. Her waist is so soft, it is like she has no bones. Every movement filled with extreme seduction. The red skirt swirls like a burning flame. The golden bells play an arousing melody. She is like a beautiful snake, twisting her body, her gaze captivating and soul-stealing. She dances while moving closer to Xiaoshan. Finally, with a spin, her supple body actually sits directly onto Xiaoshan's lap. She extends her slender jade fingers, lifts Xiaoshuan's chin, her breath fragrant, Your Highness. The whole venue erupts. Everyone is stunned. No one expected this dancing girl would dare be so bold. In front of Crown Prince, in front of all the civil and military officials, in front of the future Third Prince's consort, openly seducing the Third Prince. This is simply unheard of. Xiaoshuan's face instantly flushes bright red. He instinctively wants to push Yuanyu away, but his body is very honest. His hand wraps around Yuanyu's soft waist. He is being captivated by this woman. Everyone's gaze turns in unison toward me. They want to see how I, the legitimate fiancé, will react. Will I fly into a rage and leave in a huff? Or will I cry and whimper, swallowing my grievances? Father's face had already turned black as the bottom of a pot, his hand gripping the sword hilt, tightly, almost about to draw his sword and kill someone. But I laughed. I picked up the wine cup in front of me, stood up, and slowly walked to the center of the hall. Everyone held their breath. I walked up to Xiaoshuan and Yuanyu and stopped. I didn't look at that dancer who didn't know whether she was alive or dead. My gaze was fixed straight on Xuan. I raised my wine cup, smiling gracefully and charmingly. Your Highness is so fortunate, I said. With such an absolutely beautiful person by your side, you should drink deeply. Having said that, I drained the wine in my cup in one gulp. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, I did something even bolder. I reached out my hand and grabbed Yuanyu's chin. I forced her to lift her head and look at me. My movements were gentle, and there was still a smile on my face, but my eyes were as cold as ice. The dance was quite good. I gently caressed her delicate cheek with my fingertip. You are quite pretty too. It is just that you don't really understand the rules. Yuanyu's body began to tremble slightly. She probably saw the murderous intent in my eyes. I let go of my hand and pulled out a gold hairpin from my hair. That was the only piece of jewelry I wore today, a memento left by my mother. The hairpin was quite ordinary, except the tip had been sharpened to an unusually keen edge. I held the hairpin, pressing it against Yuanyu's beautiful face, gently sliding it across. The icy sensation made her tremble even harder, do you know? My voice was soft, like a lover's whisper. In my Yi family's army, there is a certain rule. Anyone who doesn't follow the rules and tries to challenge the commander's authority usually meets only one fate. I paused, my smile growing even brighter. That is having their tendons severed, tongue cut out, and being thrown into a wolf pack. Tell me, wouldn't that be quite a sight? Yuanyu's face instantly turned white as a sheet. She looked at me as if seeing a demon crawling out of hell. She wanted to scream, but was so frightened by the killing intent in my eyes that she couldn't utter a single word. Xiaoshuan also snapped back to his senses, and he roared, "Yao Zhao Zhao, how dare you!" He tried to push me away, but I withdrew my hand first, inserting the gold hairpin back into my hair. I stepped back 2 paces and gave him a graceful bow. My face once again resumed that gentle and virtuous expression. "Please calm your anger, Your Highness." Zhao Zhao was merely joking with Miss Yuanyu. After all, once we enter the manor, we'll be sisters. If my younger sister doesn't understand the rules, naturally I, as her older sister, must properly teach her. I beat down extremely hard on the 3 words, "Teach a lesson." The entire venue fell deathly silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was so shocked by my actions that they couldn't speak. One moment, gentle and magnanimous. The next moment, a dagger hidden in a smile, killing intent fully exposed. Just what kind of person is this eldest daughter of the Yi family? Xiao Xuan looked at me, his eyes complex to the extreme. There was anger, shock, and a wariness he himself hadn't even noticed. But Xiao Che, who had been sitting in his wheelchair watching the show, had an unprecedented brilliance burst forth in his eyes. He looked at me as if looking at the most perfect work of art. He raised his wine cup, gesturing to me from afar. I ignored him. I knew that today's performance was already enough. I had both established my authority and avoided gaining a reputation for being jealous. I let everyone know that I, Ye Zhao Zhao, am not to be trifled with. I also let Xiao Xuan know that wanting me to be a puppet for him to manipulate at will impossible. I curtsied to Xiao Xuan and Xiao Chao, Crown Prince, Third Prince. Zhao Zhao is feeling unwell, so I'll take my leave first. With that, I turned and left without any reluctance. Father immediately followed, using his body to shield me from all the probing gazes. The moment I walked out of the Eastern Palace, I looked back. I saw that Yuenu had already rolled from Xiaoshen's embrace onto the ground, shaking like a sieve. And Xiaoshen, with an extremely gloomy look I had never seen before, was staring intently at my back. I know. From today on, there is no more affection between him and me. All that is left is a fight to the death. After partying at the Eastern Palace, Xiaoshen didn't show up for a whole 10 days. He didn't send anyone to deliver things, nor did he send anyone with a message. Rumors flew around the capital city. Some said that the third prince was so angered by Miss Yi's arrogance that this marriage might fall through. Others said that Miss Yi was ruthless, already dealing with the third prince's harem before even entering the family, and would surely be a shrew in the future. I don't care. These rumors actually suit my purpose perfectly. What I want is for everyone to know that I, Yi Zhao Zhao, am not to be messed with, and the family is no pushover either. But father was worried. Zhao Zhao, did you go too far that day? We've completely offended the third prince like this. If he ascends the throne in the future, the Yi family will be in danger. I was practicing swordplay in the courtyard, and upon hearing this, I stopped my sword movement. The sword's edge gleamed with a cold light under the autumn sun. Dad, do you think that, even if we were completely obedient to him, he would spare the Yi family after ascending the throne? Father fell silent. The art of being an emperor values balance above all. I slowly wiped the sword blade, my voice icy. The Ye family holds military power. Our merits overshadow our master. This is a deep concern for emperors throughout history. No matter what we do, he will never truly trust us. The previous generation's ruler might have still remembered old ties and considered the impact. But Xiao Xuan, I raised my head and looked at father. Dad, he is a cold-hearted and ungrateful person who'll stop at nothing to achieve his goals. Between us and him, there is no possibility of peaceful coexistence. Either he dies or we perish. Father looked at me, his eyes filled with shock. These words, this analysis of imperial scheming didn't sound at all like something a 16-year-old girl could say. He didn't know that all of this was a lesson I learned in exchange for my entire family's blood in my previous life. Then, what should we do? Father's voice was somewhat hoarse. Wait, I said. Wait for His Highness, the Crown Prince, to give us an opportunity. Father frowned deeply. The Crown Prince, he is weak and sickly, bedridden for years. Is he really reliable? Dad, what you see is only what he wants you to see. I didn't explain further. Xiao Che is cunning and scheming far exceeded Xiao Xuan's if he weren't held back by his sickly body. The Xiao Xuan of my previous life wouldn't have stood a chance. But in this life, he has me. My Yi family will be his sharpest blade. On the 11th day, Xiao Xuan came. He didn't come alone. He also brought the emperor's oral decree. The oral decree said that the third prince and I would soon be married, but the Yi family army cannot go a day without a commander, so he ordered my father to set out the next day and rush to the borderlands. And I was to immediately move into the imperial villa, Tranquil Heart Garden, to await the wedding, under the pretense of having palace instructresses teach me royal etiquette. In reality, it was complete house arrest, separating me from father, placing me entirely under his control. What ruthless tactics! Father was about to erupt on the spot, but I stopped him with a look. This subject obeys the decree. Father nearly ground his teeth to dust before forcing out those 3 words. I looked at Xiao Shan. He had gotten thinner, and his eyes had grown even more sinister. As he looked at me, gone was his usual pretense of warmth. All that remained was naked possessiveness and warning. Zhao Zhao, go prepare yourself. Everything has been prepared for you at Jingxing Courtyard. You don't need to bring anything, just bring your people and come with me. His tone brooked no argument. I smiled. Sure, I agreed so readily that Xiao Xuan was momentarily stunned. He probably thought I would cry and make a scene, that I would resist. I turned around and said to Chen Dao, go get the dowry I prepared for His Highness. Chen Dao quickly brought over a large box. I opened the box in front of Xiao Xuan. Inside were not gold, silver, or jewels, not silks or satins, but thick ledgers one after another. It was exactly the copy I had transcribed anew some days ago. I picked up the topmost book, opened it, and handed it to Xiao Xuan. Your Highness, please take a look. Xiao Xuan frowned and took it from me with just one glance. His expression instantly changed. In the third month of the Jingshan year, 300,000 taels of silver, through the hands of Vice Minister of Revenue Zhou Yuanji, flowed into your Highness's private treasury. In the ninth month of the Jingshan year, 50,000 taels of gold, handled by your Highness's personal guard Zhao Yi, were used to purchase 300 sets of military equipment at the black market in the west of the city. In the second month of the Xin New Year, I smiled as I read through each entry, line by line. Every sentence was like a heavy hammer pounding mercilessly on Xiao Xuan's heart. His expression went from shock to horror and finally turned ashen. He slammed the account book shut and stared at me intently. Where did you get all this? These accounts were all his private operations, secrets of his struggle for succession. Some were even his most core confidential matters. Once leaked, they would be treasonous crimes of the highest order. He couldn't understand how I could know all these things so clearly. Your Highness, have you forgotten? I smiled innocently and sweetly. All this money was spent willingly by me, Yi Zhao Zhao, for your sake. I've always had a good memory. Xiao Xuan's breathing grew heavy. He looked at me, and for the first time his eyes revealed fear. He was scared. He thought he had everything under control, but he discovered that his biggest secret was being held in my hands. What do you want? His voice was hoarse. I don't want anything. I took the account book back from his hands and gently patted the cover. I just wanted to remind your Highness, I, Yi Zhao Zhao, am not a soft person you can squeeze at will. Since I can lift you up naturally, I can also pull you down. I leaned close to him, lowered my voice, and spoke at a volume only the two of us could hear. I can go to Jingshan Courtyard. My father can also go to the borderlands, but you'd better pray that both of us, father and daughter, remain safe and sound, without a single hair harmed. Otherwise, I raised my eyes to look at him, my smile cruel. I can't guarantee where these account books will show up. For example, on the Crown Prince's desk, or in front of His Majesty, the Empress Dragon Throne. Xiao Xuan's body trembled uncontrollably. He looked at me as if looking at a demon crawling out of hell. He probably finally understood. What he was marrying wasn't a docile sheep, but a viper that bites. I took a step back and showed him a gentle smile again. Your Highness, let's go. Zhao Zhao can't wait to see the golden house your Highness has prepared for me. Xiao Xuan looked at me, his lips moved, but he couldn't say a single word. In the end, he squeezed out a sentence through gritted teeth. Zhao Zhao, you are ruthless. I smiled, ruthless. This is just the beginning. Jingshan Manor lived up to its name. Located in the outskirts of the capital, far from the hustle and bustle, the environment was serene. To put it nicely, it was an imperial villa. To put it bluntly, it was just a luxurious cage. High walls completely isolated this place from the outside world. At the entrance were dozens of imperial guards, all loyal followers of Xiao Xuan. Not even a bird could fly out. I was brought inside. Xiao Xuan didn't appear again. The one in charge of watching over me was a nanny surnamed Li. She was a veteran from the palace, said to be a trusted aide of Xiao Xuan's late mother, with sharp and mean eyes. The way she looked at me was full of scrutiny and disdain. Miss Yi, from today on, your food, clothing, shelter, and daily life will all be managed by this old servant. Before your wedding, there are many rules you need to learn. I hope you will behave yourself and not cause us any trouble. Her tone sounded less like instruction and more like a warning. I ignored her. I walked straight into the main room. Everything in the room was indeed arranged according to the standards for a princess consort, extremely luxurious. But I knew that behind this splendor there were countless eyes watching. Chuntao followed behind me, her little face pale with fear. Miss, this place is so scary. Don't be afraid. I patted her hand soothingly. Then I turned around and said to Nanny Li, Nanny, I am hungry. Nanny Li froze for a moment, probably didn't expect me to make such a request. She said with a fake smile, the kitchen has already prepared everything, all according to the princess consort's standard portions. I am not eating those. I walked over to a chair and sat down. My posture relaxed. I want roast duck from Fu Man Lu in the south of the city, osmanthus cake from Li's shop in the east, and sour plum soup from Auntie Wang's in the west. Now, immediately go buy them for me. My tone was not a discussion, it was an order. Nanny Li's face instantly darkened. Miss Yi, this is the Imperial Villa, not your family's backyard. Who do you think you are? How dare you boss this old servant around? Don't think that just because the third prince protects you, you can do whatever you want. She probably thought I was a spoiled young miss and wanted to put me in my place. I smiled. I slowly stood up and walked in front of her. I was half a head taller than her. I looked down at her, my gaze ice cold. Who do I think I am? I am the official consort of the third prince, personally bestowed by the emperor, the future daughter-in-law of the imperial family. And you, Nanny Li, what the hell are you? Just a slave, that is all. Seeing your master, you don't kneel, don't pay respects, and you even dare to shout and yell. Who gave you such nerve? My voice grew colder with each sentence. Nanny Li was intimidated by my presence. She opened her mouth, wanting to retort, but found herself unable to utter a single word. I raised my hand. Everyone thought I was going to hit her. Nanny Li was so scared, she closed her eyes. But my hand only gently landed on her shoulder, brushing off dust that didn't even exist. Nanny, you need to understand something. My voice was as soft as a devil's whisper. The third prince right now still doesn't dare to do anything to me. If I lose a single hair here, or if I am not happy with the food or comfortable with the sleep, can you, a mere slave, bear the consequences? I withdrew my hand and sat back down. Now, do you still want to lecture me about rules? Nanny Li's face alternated between red and white. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear. She probably finally realized that this seemingly delicate young lady before her was not someone she could afford to provoke. In the end, she reluctantly knelt down. This old slave acknowledges her mistake. This old slave will go shopping for the princess consort right away. I nodded with satisfaction. Go, remember, be quick. Nanny Li scrambled out on all fours. Chen Tao stood at the side, stunned and gaping. She probably never imagined that her own young lady could have such an imposing side. I picked up the tea on the table and blew on it gently. I knew this was only the first step. Establishing authority. I needed to let everyone here know who the real master was. I needed to make them fear me, respect me. Only this way could I survive in this cage. Only then could I pave the way for my next plan. In the evening, Nanny Li returned. Not only did she buy back everything I'd ordered, she also brought back a piece of news. His Highness, the Crown Prince, was critically ill. This news exploded like a thunderbolt throughout the entire separate estate. All the servants were whispering among themselves. I sat by the window, eating the steaming roast duck, but my eyes were ice cold. It is here, Xiaoshuan. You are finally making your move. In my previous life, the Crown Prince also became critically ill at this time. Then, a month later, he died of illness under mysterious circumstances. Once he died, Xiaoshan became the rightful heir apparent. This life, he wants to use the same trick again. He thought that by locking me up here, he'd be completely safe, but he didn't know. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I put down my chopsticks and said to Chan Dao, Chan Dao, help me get dressed up. I am going to the Eastern Palace to visit His Highness, the Crown Prince. Chan Dao was shocked. Miss, have you lost your mind? This place is heavily guarded. How can we possibly get out? Besides, the third prince has given strict orders that you are not allowed to leave even one step. I smiled. Who said I am going to force my way out? I walked to the vanity and picked up an eyebrow pencil. In the bronze mirror, my face appeared 70% similar to Yi Wanning's. I looked at myself in the mirror, the corners of my mouth curling into a sinister arc. Xiaoshuan won't let me go out, but he didn't say he wouldn't let Yi Wanning go out. At nightfall, Jingxin courtyard was deathly silent. I sat before the bronze mirror as Chan Dao made the final touches. The person in the mirror was no longer Ye Zhao Zhao. The eyebrows were drawn thinner and more arched, with a pitiful charm. A beauty mark was dotted with rouge at the corner of the eye, adding a seductive air. The lip color was the deep red that Yi Wanning loved most, plus a pink dress, the spitting image of Yi Wanning. Chun Tao's hands were very skillful. She looked at me in the mirror, too shocked to speak. Miss, you and second miss. You are exactly alike, not second miss. I looked at the mirror and coldly corrected her. It is the criminal woman, Yi Wanning. I took out a waist token from the jewelry box. It was something previously found in Yi Wanning's room, a special pass from the third prince's residence. Whoever sees this token should treat it as if the third prince himself were present. In my previous life, Yi Wanning relied on this token to freely enter and exit Xiao Xuan's study, stealing so many secrets from my Yi family. In this life, it became the key for me to walk out of my cage. I tucked a waist token into my sleeve and stood up. Chen Tao, you wait here for me. Remember, no matter who comes, tell them I've gone to sleep and I am not seeing guests. If I haven't returned by dawn, I paused and looked at her. You find a way to escape. Go to the borderlands and find my brother. Tears immediately welled up in Chen Tao's eyes. Miss, I am not leaving. I want to go with you. Nonsense, I scolded sternly. This is an order. Chen Tao was scared into silence and could only nod with tears in her eyes. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Tonight there was no moon. The wind was strong, blowing the tree shadows into menacing shapes, like ghosts. I kept my head down, using the cloak's hood to cover most of my face, trying to stay in the shadows as much as possible. The defenses of Jingxing Garden were tight on the outside, but loose on the inside. Xiao Shan probably thought that as long as he guarded the main gate, I'd have no way to escape. But he never expected that I would use this method to pull off a switcheroo. I avoided several waves of patrolling guards and smoothly made it to the back wall of the separate courtyard. This place had the weakest defenses. At the base of the wall, a dark figure was already waiting for me. One of the Crown Prince's people. Without a word, he handed me a set of nightclothes and a bundle. I quickly changed, stuffing my dress and cloak into the bundle. The dark figure pointed at the top of the wall and made a please gesture. I nodded, stepped back a few paces, took a running start, kicked off the wall and flipped over. The movements were smooth and flowing, incredibly swift. This was a skill I developed since childhood, training with my father and brother. In my last life, after marrying into the Deep Palace, I never used it again. Who would have thought it would now become a life-saving skill? Outside the wall, 2 horses were waiting. We leaped onto the horses' backs and disappeared into the night. The Eastern Palace was brightly lit, yet the atmosphere was terrifyingly heavy. All the imperial physicians were kneeling outside the sleeping quarters, each one looking ashen-faced. I followed the person who came to receive me and entered the Crown Prince's sleeping quarters through a secret passage. Inside the hall, a thick medicinal smell permeated the air. Xiao Qiao lay on the bed, eyes tightly shut, face ashen, lips cracked and dry, breathing faint. By the looks of it, he really didn't have long to live. An old eunuch sat by the bed, his trusted confidant, Eunuch Fu. When Eunuch Fu saw me, surprise flashed in his eyes. Then he bowed respectfully, Miss Yi. I nodded and walked to the bedside. I looked at Xiao Che on the bed and lowered my voice. Really convincing act. As soon as I finished speaking, the dying Crown Prince on the bed slowly opened his eyes. Where in his eyes was there even a trace of illness? Clear, sharp, even carrying a hint of amusement. Miss Yi flatters me. He struggled, trying to sit up. Eunuch Fu hurried forward, propping a pillow behind him. If I don't act convincingly enough, how can I fool that dear third brother of mine? Xiao Qiao coughed twice, his voice still weak. He can't wait any longer. My people reported that tonight he'll make his move. My heart tensed. Make his move? What does he want to do? Force a coup? Xiao Qiao looked at me, speaking word by word. Father Emperor's health has been poor lately. He wants to take advantage of my critical condition and Father Emperor's illness. Under this double blow, seize control of the Imperial Guards in one move. Then, under the pretext of eliminating treacherous officials, force Father Emperor to abdicate. What an ambitious scheme. What a cruel heart for that position. He can even sacrifice his own biological father. So why did you ask me to come here? What do you want me to do? I asked. It is simple. A cold gleam flashed in Xiao Che's eyes. I want you to go to a place and retrieve something. What place? What thing? Huangge Temple. Xiao Qiao looked at me and slowly spoke 3 words. The Imperial Seal. I gasped. The Imperial Seal. A treasure of the nation, how could it be at Huangge Temple? Father Emperor is suspicious by nature. He never trusts anyone. Xiao Qiao explained. So he long ago hid the real seal in a secret chamber at Huangge Temple. The one in the palace is fake. The secret is only known to emperors and crown princes of each generation. Xiao Xuan doesn't know. Even if he succeeds in forcing the palace tonight without the seal, the first imperial edict he issues will be a forged decree. Without proper legitimacy, his words carry no weight. He will forever be nothing but a usurper. I understood. Xiao Xiao's plan was to pull the rug out from under him. He wanted to turn all of Xiao Xuan's efforts into a joke. Why me? I asked. Because only you can do it. Xiao Xiao looked at me, his gaze burning. The secret chamber of Huanggo Temple is filled with traps and mechanisms. Only the Yi family's flowing cloud steps can pass through safely. This is what your mother personally told my mother back then. My mother, that woman from a wealthy family in Jiangnan with a mysterious identity. Just how many secrets is she still hiding from me? All right, I didn't hesitate. I agree. After this is done, I want you to promise me 3 things. Xiao Chao smiled. Let alone 3 things, even 30 would be fine. First, I held up one finger. Yi Weining must die. I want her dead in Jing'an Hall, silently and without a trace. Agreed. Second, I held up a second finger. After bringing down Xiao Shuan, I want to take back all the money that belongs to my Yi family. Not a single penny less, as it should be. Third, I looked at him, my eyes utterly serious. I want you to swear that for as long as you live, you will never suspect the Yi family, never strip the Yi family of military power. A harmonious relationship between lord and subject, a good beginning and a good end. The smile on Xiao Che's face slowly faded. He looked at me, his eyes becoming unprecedentedly grave. He knew how heavy this third condition was. This was the deepest hope, and also the sternest warning, from a descendant of a military family to a future monarch. After a long while, he nodded. Okay, Shao Qi, hereby make this vow. If I break this vow, may heaven and man strike me down. I smiled from my bosom. I took out the small porcelain bottle that Xiao Che had once given me. The one that contained the antidote. I placed it on the bedside. This is a return gift, I said. Inside is the life-sustaining pill left behind by my mother. Perhaps it can help your highness's act last a little longer. With that, I turned and left. Eunuch Fu handed me a map and a key. Miss Yi, take care. I nodded, and my figure vanished into the secret passage. Tonight in capital city was destined to be sleepless, and I, Yi Zhaozhao, would personally raise the curtain on this grand play. Huanggo Temple was located on the western hills of capital city. It was the imperial family's temple with flourishing incense offerings and strict guard. But I had the crown prince's written order, so my path was unobstructed all the way. The one who received me was the abbot, Master Huizhen. He was an old monk who looked kind and benevolent, but in his eyes there was a barely perceptible shrewdness. Seeing me, a woman, visiting late at night, he showed no surprise whatsoever, as if he had expected it all along. Amitabha, benefactor, please follow this old monk. Without asking a single question, he led me directly through the great Buddha hall to a pagoda in the back mountain. Beneath the pagoda, there was an inconspicuous meditation room. Master Huizhen pushed open the door and lit a candle. The meditation room was completely empty, with only a prayer cushion and a half-person tall statue of Maitreya Buddha. The thing is inside. Master Huizhen pointed at the Buddha statue. After saying that, he retreated outside and even closed the door for me. I walked to the front of the Buddha statue and, following the map Xiao Che had given me, found the mechanism. On the Buddha statue's navel, there was a small protrusion. I inserted the key the crown prince had given me into it. I turned it gently. There was a click sound. The back of the Buddha statue slowly split open with a crack, revealing a pitch-black opening. A bottomless stone staircase spiraled downward. I took a deep breath, held up the candlestick, and walked inside. The secret passage was very damp, with a stale smell permeating the air. The stone stairs were very long. I walked for about the time it takes an incense stick to burn before reaching the bottom. Before my eyes was a long corridor. On the walls on both sides of the corridor, every few steps, there was an eternal lamp emitting a dim green light. The entire corridor was illuminated like a ghostly realm. I knew that the real test was only now beginning. Xiao Che had said that this path was filled with traps. Only the Yi family's flowing cloud step could pass through safely. The flowing cloud step was the secret footwork technique my mother had taught me. The essence lies in light steps, landing without sound, able to move and maneuver within a small space. I focused my mind, recalling my mother's teachings from back then. Gather chi, concentrate. I took the first step. The stone slab beneath my feet didn't move an inch safe. I continued forward. Each step, I walked with utmost care. My ears carefully distinguished any unusual sounds in the air. My eyes vigilantly observed any suspicious traces on the walls and ground. I walked about 10 zhang, my right foot. Gently stepped on a stone slab. That slab was slightly more sunken than the others. Just a bit, almost imperceptible. But I felt it. My heart tensed. I wanted to pull back my foot, but it was already too late. I only heard several whooshing sounds cutting through the air. From the walls on my left and right, over a dozen crossbow bolts, coated with deadly poison, shot out suddenly, blocking all my routes forward and backward. In that split second, I didn't panic. My body reacted almost instinctively. With a swallow threading through the forest, my body slipped through the gap between the two rows of crossbow bolts. At an incredible angle, several bolts flew past my clothes. The force of the wind, they stirred, scraping my cheeks painfully. I landed on the ground, my back already drenched in cold sweat. That was close. If I had reacted half a second slower, I'd be a dead man right now. I don't dare let my guard down anymore. For the rest of the way, I proceed even more cautiously. Pressure plates, tripwires, quicksand pits, all sorts of sinister traps, one after another. But I managed to overcome them all, relying on the exquisite flowing cloud steps technique and my alertness far beyond that of ordinary people. I finally reached the end of the corridor. Before me stands a heavy stone door. On the stone door, there's no lock, only a 9-grid rotating disc. This is the final checkpoint, and also the most difficult one. I need to solve an extremely complex mathematical puzzle to open the stone door. I look at the disc and furrow my brow. In my previous life, I was obsessed with Shaoshuan and neglected my studies. When it comes to numerology, I only know the basics. What should I do? Time is passing by second. Xiaoshuan's power grab could start at any moment. If I am trapped here, Xiaoche's entire plan will fall apart. I am so anxious that I am sweating profusely. Just when I am at my wit's end, a passage that my mother once taught me to memorize suddenly flashes through my mind. Where 9 tread on 1, 3 on the left, 7 on the right, 2 and 4 are shoulders, 6 and 8 are feet, 5 resides in the center. This is the solution to the 9-grid puzzle. Why did my mother teach me this back then? Could it be that she had already anticipated that one day I would come here? I didn't have time to think much about it. I reached out my hand and, following the incantation, began to turn that dial. Click, click, the dial made a heavy sound. When I made the final turn, I heard a loud rumble. The stone door before my eyes slowly rose up. Behind the door was a small stone chamber. In the center of the chamber was a stone platform. On the platform lay a rosewood box resting quietly. The box wasn't locked. I walked forward and opened it. Inside was a crystal clear, jade-green imperial seal. On the bottom of the seal were carved 8 seal script characters. Having received a mandate from heaven, may the emperor enjoy longevity and prosperity, the imperial seal of the realm. I had finally obtained it. I wrapped the seal in yellow cloth and carefully placed it inside my coat. Then I turned around, preparing to return the way I came. But just as I turned around, a ghostly voice came from behind me. Miss Yi, it has been a while. My whole body stiffened, and I whipped my head around. From the shadows of the stone chamber, a man slowly walked out. He wore a black knight outfit with a silver mask on his face. Only a pair of eyes were visible. Those eyes, I'll never forget them for the rest of my life. Sinister, vicious, filled with possessiveness. It is Xiaoshuan. How could he be here? Isn't he supposed to be in the imperial palace, preparing to force the abdication? Very surprised. Xiaoshuan walked toward me step by step, his voice carrying the teasing tone of a cat toying with a mouse. Did you think I really didn't know what you were up to? Ye Zhao Zhao, you've underestimated me. He walked up to me and stopped. His gaze fell on my bulging chest area. Got the thing? If you got it, hand it over. His tone was as if he were speaking to a servant. My heart sank to rock bottom. I'd calculated everything except that he would be here waiting for me. My whereabouts had been exposed. Who was it? Who betrayed me? Is there a traitor by Crown Prince's side? Or is it? In my mind, the kind and benevolent face of Master Huizhen flashed by. I understood now. Huanggu Temple had long been under his control. This was a trap specifically prepared for me, or rather, for the Crown Prince. I gripped a dagger hidden in my sleeve. Xiaoshuan, do you think you've already won? What else? Xiaoshuan laughed, his laughter filled with triumph. The imperial seal is in my hands. The Crown Prince is probably already a corpse by now. And you, my beloved Zhao Zhao, have also become a turtle in my jar. Tell me, haven't I already won? He reached out his hand, wanting to pinch my chin. I brandished my dagger and forced him back. Wishful thinking. Good, Zhao, Shan said. Good 3 times in a row, his eyes becoming incredibly fierce. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. I want to see just how tough your bones are. He clapped his hands. From outside the stone chamber. Over a dozen black-clothed assassins poured in. They surrounded me completely, each one brimming with murderous intent. Xiaoshuan folded his arms, watching me with leisurely confidence. Zhao Zhao, I am giving you one last chance. Hand over the imperial seal, and then obediently come back with me. Otherwise, I don't mind letting them show you some love first. His words were shameless to the extreme. I looked at him and smiled until tears nearly came out. This was the man I loved for 10 years. This was the man I gave everything to support. Turned out, He was such a complete and utter scumbag, a beast worse than an animal. I raised the dagger and aimed it at my own neck. Xiao Xuan, my voice was terrifyingly calm. Today, you either kill me or watch me walk out of here with the imperial seal. Want me to submit to you? You are not worthy. Xiao Xuan's face twisted with rage. You think I don't dare? You think I actually care whether you live or die? Once you are dead, the imperial seal will still be mine. Get her, capture her, dead or alive, he gave the final order. A dozen assassins lunged at me like hungry wolves. Flashing blades instantly engulfed me. I knew that today I might really die here, but even if it means death, I am taking a few down with me. A flash of determination crossed my eyes as I gripped the dagger tightly and charged forward. Just then, a deafening boom rang out. The entire stone chamber shook violently. The stone door behind us was actually rammed open from the outside by sheer brute force. Ha 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 ha, I was so pumped writing this part. The scumbag thought he had it in the bag, bringing a bunch of assassins to corner the female lead in a sealed room, arrogantly declaring the imperial seal is mine, and so is the woman. But the moment he finished talking, the female lead's real brother descended from heaven with the imperial guards. This is what I mean by the reversal needs to come at the most desperate moment. The audience's emotions get pushed to rock bottom, then pulled to the peak in 1 second. That kind of psychological whiplash creates the ultimate satisfaction. Also notice how the female lead never begged for mercy, never cried. She'd rather press a dagger to her own throat than yield to that scumbag. That kind of backbone is what a strong female lead should have. Countless torches flooded in from outside the door, accompanied by a series of orderly and powerful footsteps. The imperial guards are here. Protect His Highness, the Crown Prince. A booming voice echoed throughout the entire secret passage. Imperial guards, His Highness, the Crown Prince. Everrain froze. Xiao Xuan's face instantly turned deathly pale. We all turned to look at once. There, standing at the stone doorway, was a person. He wore silver armor, wielded a long sword, and stood tall and straight as a pine tree. The firelight illuminated his face, handsome as a deity. But on that face, at this moment, was covered with frost and towering fury. He wasn't from the imperial guards. He was my older brother, Yi Mingyuan, me brother, Yi Mingyuan. Wasn't he supposed to be at Yamen Pass, 1,000 miles away? How could he appear here and bringing the imperial guards with him? I froze, and Xiao Xuan froze too. Those assassins exchanged glances with each other at a complete loss. Brother, I instinctively called out, my voice trembling with disbelief. Yet, Mingyuan didn't look at me. His gaze was firmly fixed on Xiao Xuan, Xiao Xuan. He uttered this name word by word, the killing intent contained in his voice almost freezing the entire stone chamber. You dare to touch my little sister, Xiao Xuan snapped out of his initial shock. He looked at Yi Mingyuan, then at the imperial guards behind him clad in armor and wielding crossbows, his expression turning extremely ugly. Yi Mingyuan, how bold of you. You dare to bring troops back to the capital without authorization. Are you trying to rebel? He tried to pin the huge charge of treason on Yi Mingyuan, but Yi Mingyuan laughed with utter contempt. Rebellion, Third Prince, Your Highness, aren't you mistaken? I am acting under the secret orders of the Crown Prince, Your Highness, returning to the capital to protect His Majesty. On the contrary, it is you, Third Prince. Your Highness. Yi Mingyuan's sword edge pointed towards Xiao Xuan. Late at night, you led people to break into the royal forbidden grounds, attempting to seize the imperial jade seal, and even trying to harm my sister. You are the true traitorous rebel. His words rang with resounding authority. Xiao Xuan's face turned pale and flushed alternately. He knew that today he had utterly fallen. He hadn't expected Yi Mingyuan to suddenly appear. Even more unexpected was that the Crown Prince Xiao Che had been guarding against him all along, and had even persuaded Yi Mingyuan to work for him. He had lost completely and utterly. Seize him, Yi Mingyuan gave the order. The imperial guards behind him pounced forward like wolves and tigers. Xiao Shan's assassins were no match at all, subdued completely in just a few moves. Xiao Shan didn't resist. He only stared at me intently, his eyes filled with venomous hatred and unwillingness. As if saying, Yi Zhao Zhao, I underestimated you too. Imperial guards stepped forward and bound him with rope. With this, the situation was settled. Only then did Yi Mingyuan turn around and stride toward me. He pulled me into his arms in one swift motion, holding me tightly. His arms were trembling, and his voice carried lingering fear. Zhao, Zhao, are you alright? Are you hurt? He checked me up and down. Afraid I might have lost even a single hair. I leaned against his broad and warm chest, breathing in the familiar scent of rust and dust from the battlefield that clung to him. My tears could no longer be held back and came flooding out. "Brother," I cried like a child. "In my previous life, I never saw him again. He died in battle, and not even a complete corpse could be recovered. I always thought he had sacrificed himself for the country. Now that I think about it, his death was probably connected to Xiaoshuan as well. Now he was standing right before me, alive. This joy and excitement of regaining what was lost almost overwhelmed me. All right, don't cry anymore." Yimingyuan clumsily patted my back, wiping away my tears. "It is all over now. You are safe. With me here, no one will dare bully you again." I nodded and withdrew from his embrace. I looked at him and asked the question that puzzled me. "Brother, how did you end up here?" "It was the Crown Prince," Yimingyuan explained. "A month ago, His Highness the Crown Prince had already sent someone to rush a personal letter to Yanmen Pass. In the letter, he detailed the situation in the capital and Xiaoshuan's possible schemes against you and father. He asked me to secretly bring an elite force back to the capital city, just in case. So that is how it is. Xiao Che's plans had begun from so long ago. Having me write to my brother was perhaps just a backup plan. The one he truly trusted was still himself. After I received your letter, I rushed even faster, traveling day and night." Yimingyuan looked at me, his eyes full of heartache. "Fortunately, I made it in time." I nodded, feeling a wave of lingering fear. "Yes, fortunately, if my brother had arrived even half a step later, the consequences would have been unthinkable. We escorted Xiaoshuan out of the secret passage. Outside Huanggo Temple, everything had been completely taken over by the Imperial Guards. Master Huizhen, that traitorous old monk, was kneeling on the ground, like a puddle of mud, trembling. On the horizon, the pale light of dawn was already appearing. The longest night in the capital city was finally about to pass. Yimingyuan looked at me. "Zhao, Zhao, what do you want to do next?" I looked at Xiaoshuan, who was tied up and in a pathetic state, my eyes cold. "Brother, let's enter the palace. To see His Majesty the Emperor. I want to expose his true face with my own hands in front of all the civil and military officials. I will make him lose everything, disgraced and never able to rise again." Yimingyuan looked at the ruthlessness and determination in my eyes that didn't match my age and froze for a moment. Then he nodded heavily. "All right, brother will go with you." Our group set off toward the Imperial Palace in grand fashion. I knew that from the moment we stepped through the palace gate, an even greater storm was about to arrive, and I would be the center of the storm. When we appeared before the Taihei Hall, dragging Xiaoshuan with us, all the civil and military officials preparing for court were stunned. They looked at the Imperial Guards in armor holding weapons, at the third prince bound tightly and in a wretched state, and me and my brother Yimingyuan. Every single one of them showed expressions as if they'd seen a ghost. The entire plaza was silent as death. Everyone sensed that something major was going to happen today. The emperor was soon alarmed. He wore bright yellow sleeping robes, his hair somewhat disheveled, and hurried over with the support of his servants. When he saw Xiaoshuan's miserable state, his face instantly turned ashen. What is going on here?" He pointed at Yimingyuan, his voice trembling with rage. "Yimingyuan, how dare you? Who gave you the authority to bind a prince?" Yimingyuan remained neither servile nor overbearing, kneeling on one knee. "Your Majesty, I am acting under secret orders from Crown Prince to apprehend traitors. Third Prince Xiaoshuan, plotting treason, attempting to usurp the throne. Both witnesses and evidence are present." "Usurp the throne?" Emperor staggered, nearly falling over. He looked at Xiaoshuan in disbelief. "Xuaner, is what he says true?" Xiaoshuan knelt on the ground, hair disheveled, face covered in mud, having long lost his former grace. He raised his head, looking at Emperor, his eyes filled with venomous hatred and madness. "Father Emperor, your son has been wronged. It is Crown Prince who colluded with the Ye family to frame your son. They're the ones who want to rebel." He began to bite back. Even at this point, he was still trying to twist the truth. "Frame you?" A weak yet dignified voice came from behind the crowd. Everyone turned to look. They saw Crown Prince Xiao Chao sitting in a luxurious wheelchair, being pushed by eunuch Fu slowly approaching. His complexion was still pale, but his spirits were quite good. Where was even a hint of being critically ill? Everyone understood. This was a trap that Crown Prince had meticulously set, luring the prey into the cage. Emperor looked at Xiao Che, lips trembling, unable to speak. He probably finally realized that the struggle between his two sons had reached a life or death point, and he, as their father emperor, had been kept in the dark. Xiao Che came to the center of the scene and bowed slightly toward the emperor. Father Emperor, your son came late to your rescue. I beg your forgiveness. Then he looked at Xiaoshuan with pitying eyes. Third brother, things have come to this point. Are you still going to argue? Last night, you mobilized the capital city garrison and surrounded the palace, attempting to force the abdication. Did this happen or not? A general wearing armor walked out from the crowd and knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, this subordinate was deceived by the third prince. He said there were assassins in the palace and told this subordinate to lead troops to eliminate the threat to you. This was the commander of the capital city garrison. He was Xiaoshuan's man, yet now he was the first to betray him. Xiaoshuan's face instantly turned deathly pale. Xiao Che continued, you sent people to poison my medicine, wanting me to die suddenly and disguise it as death from illness. Did this happen or not? Several imperial physicians crawled and tumbled forward on their knees, presenting a medicine packet. Your Majesty, this is true. This medicine contains the deadly poison Chen Jiyin. If the crown prince hadn't been prepared, the consequences would be unthinkable. Xiaoshuan's body began to tremble. Xiao Che's gaze finally fell on me. You, in order to gain the financial support of the Yi family, did not hesitate to orchestrate a chance encounter and deceive Miss Yi's feelings. To clear obstacles, you even sent people to kill Miss Yi's personal maidservant. To monopolize the Yi family, you again orchestrated an imperial marriage decree, placed Miss Yi under house arrest, and detained General Yi. Last night, you even set a trap wanting to seize the Imperial Jade Seal at Huanggo Temple and kill to silence witnesses. Xiaoshuan, each and every one of these, do you dare admit to them? Xiao Che's voice grew more severe with each word. Every single word was like a heavy hammer, pounding harshly upon Xiaoshuan's crimes, and pounding upon the hearts of everyone present. Everyone looked at Xiaoshuan with shocked and contemptuous gazes. They couldn't imagine that this third prince, who usually appeared refined and courteous to the worthy, was actually such a ruthless and despicable scoundrel behind the scenes. Xiaoshuan's psychological defenses completely collapsed. He lifted his head, looking at me, his eyes filled with endless madness and regret. Yeah, Zhao Zhao, he roared hoarsely. It is you, it is all you. If you had obediently married me back then, obediently given me everything from the Ye family, today's events wouldn't have happened. You forced me. You forced me. He pushed all the blame onto me. Laughable. Truly laughable to the extreme. I slowly walked out from behind my brother. I walked in front of him, looking down at him from above, looking at this man who ruined my previous life, and nearly ruined this life of mine too. I felt no anger, nor any sadness. In my heart, there was only a deathly stillness and calm. I took out that jade seal from my chest, held it up high, Your Majesty. My voice, clear and resounding, echoed throughout the entire plaza. The Imperial Jade Seal is here. The Ye family is filled with loyal martyrs, devoted wholeheartedly to the nation, with absolutely no disloyalty. Today, Yao Zhao implores Your Majesty to severely punish the traitorous faction, to return justice to the Ye family, and to return peace to the realm. My words were like a thunderclap, completely Xiaoshuan's last hope, and leaving that high and mighty emperor without any reason to show favoritism. He looked at the jade seal in my hand, looked at Xiaoshuan kneeling on the ground, looked at the imposing crown prince and Yi Mingxuan. He knew he had lost. He, as emperor, had lost to his own son. He closed his eyes, his face showing endless aging and exhaustion. After a long while, he opened his eyes and, with a hoarse voice, issued the final judgment. Third Prince Xiao Shen, lacking in virtue, plotting treason, and defying superiors, his crimes unforgivable. Immediately strip him of his title and reduce him to commoner status, confine him for life at the imperial clan court. His accomplices shall be handed over to the crown prince for thorough investigation. By imperial decree. After saying this, as if drained of all his strength, he collapsed limply onto the dragon throne. A heart-stopping palace coup thus came to an end, concluding with Xiaoshuan's complete defeat and Xiao Che's total victory. I watched Xiaoshuan being dragged away, looking like a dead dog. I knew I had won. I had avenged myself from my previous life, and avenged my family, but in my heart, there wasn't the joy I had imagined, only emptiness. Is it over? Number not yet. My gaze passed over the crowd and landed on His Highness, the Crown Prince, who sat in his wheelchair watching me with a smile. Xiao Chao, the deal between us has only just begun. Xiaoshuan has fallen. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Crown Prince Xiao Che was ordered to thoroughly investigate the rebel faction, and for a time, capital city was awash in bloodshed. Any official who had ties to Xiaoshuan, no matter how big or small, was taken down one by one. Zhou Yuan, Vice Minister of Revenue, was sentenced to execution of his entire family for embezzling the national treasury and funding the rebel faction. The capital garrison commander was sentenced to death by 5 horses for aiding treason. And those aristocratic families who had once sucked up to Xiaoshuan and strutted arrogantly at the gates of the Yi family, now every one of them had become prisoners. I didn't pay attention to any of this. I was taking inventory of my dowry. Xiao Chao kept his word. He sent officials from the Ministry of Revenue with thick volumes of records to the Yi residence. Those records detailed every single sum of money that had flowed out of the Yi family and into Xiaoshuan's private treasury over the years. Shops, land, gold, and silver antiques. Every single item, crystal clear. The confiscated wealth filled the front courtyard of the Yi residence, glittering with golden light, almost blinding. Father and my brother stared at the mountain of wealth, too stunned to speak. They probably never imagined that the dowry my mother left behind would be such an astonishingly huge sum of money. Even less did they expect that I had, without their knowledge, given all this money to Xiaoshuan. Zhao Zhao. Father looked at me, his eyes complicated, wanting to speak, but hesitating. I knew what he wanted to ask. I smiled. Dad, brother, it is all in the past. From now on, the Ye family's purse will be managed by me personally. No one should expect to take even a single copper coin from me again. My tone was light and breezy, but only I knew what price I had paid to get these things back. Besides money, there were also people Ye Wanning. The second day after I returned from the palace, news came from Jing'an Hall. The criminal woman Yi Wanning, for refusing to repent and offending the gods and Buddha, died suddenly last night. I knew this was the second gift Xiao Che sent me. He handled it very cleanly, publicly claiming it was sudden death. No one would suspect anything. A concubine's daughter abandoned by her family dying in that kind of place. Nothing could be more normal. In my previous life, she made me suffer endless humiliation and die with hatred. In this life, I made her die silently in despair and fear. Between us, where even now, all those who betrayed me and hurt me have gotten their deserved ends. Only one last person remains. I changed into plain clothes and went to the Imperial Clan Court alone. The Imperial Clan Court is a place where Imperial family criminals are imprisoned. Dark, damp, never seeing daylight all year round. I walked into a cell in the deepest part. I saw the once arrogant third prince, Xiaoshuan. He wore prison clothes. His hair like withered grass, his face unshaven. Heavy shackles were on both his hands and feet. He was curled up in a pile of straw in the corner, like a stray dog. Hearing footsteps, he raised his head. Seeing it was me. His murky eyes first flashed with terror, then were immediately replaced by towering hatred. What are you doing here? His voice was hoarse like a broken gong. Coming to laugh at me? I didn't speak. I just quietly looked at him. Looking at his current wretched state, I thought of how I looked when I died in the cold palace in my last life. How similar, truly, karma comes full circle. Yao Zhao Zhao. You venomous woman. Seeing I didn't speak, he started cursing madly. I must have been blind. How could I have fallen for you back then? I really regret it. I regret not killing you with one stroke at Putuo Temple back then. I listened quietly. When he was tired of cursing and couldn't curse anymore, only then did I slowly speak. Xiaoshuan. My voice was very calm. Aren't you curious? Why is it that I know so many of your secrets? Why is it that suddenly my temperament changed so drastically? Xiaoshuan froze. He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with doubt and confusion. Yes, this was exactly what he couldn't figure out the most. How could a sheltered young lady who had been toyed with in the palm of his hand suddenly become a vengeful demon capable of dragging him into hell? I looked at him and smiled. A smile that was incredibly bright, yet incredibly desolate. Because I've died once before. My voice was soft, yet like a clap of thunder, it exploded beside his ear. His eyes widened as he looked at me in disbelief. You, what did you say? I said, I've died once before. Step by step, I slowly recounted my experiences from my previous life. When I wrote to this point, I got goosebumps myself. The female lead went to the prison to see the scumbag, not to hear his confession, not to see his miserable state. She went to close the case. She told him the truth. I was reborn. I know what you did to me, and I've collected every debt. The significance of this conversation is that the female lead has completely let go. She doesn't need the scumbag's apology, doesn't need his remorse. She just needs a period. From now on in her life, this person no longer exists. This is true letting go, not forgiveness, but forgetting from how I fell in love with him to how I gave my all to help him. How he ascended the throne to become emperor, how he doted on my younger sister, how he wiped out my entire Yi family. Finally, how I was deposed as Empress by him, thrown into the cold palace and frozen to death. I spoke very calmly as if telling someone else's story, but every single word was like a knife, ruthlessly slicing through Xiaoshuan's nerves. His expression went from disbelief to shock to horror and finally transformed into utter terror. He looked at me, as if looking at a real ghost that had crawled back from hell. Number, impossible. He muttered to himself, shaking his head constantly. This is an illusion. You are lying to me. I am lying to you. I took out something from my chest. It was a small jade pendant carved with the character Xuan. Do you still recognize this? This is what you gave me with your own hands when we pledged our love. You said, seeing the jade pendant is like seeing you. In my previous life, even until death, I clutched it tightly in my palm. Xiaoshan looked at that jade pendant, his body trembling violently. This jade pendant was his mother's relic. He had only given it to me alone. This matter, apart from the two of us, no third person knew about it. His last psychological defense completely collapsed. It is you. It really is you. He looked at me, 2 lines of turbid tears streaming down from his eyes. Zhao Zhao, I've wronged you. I've wronged you so. He began to repent, began to cry bitterly. Ridiculous. It is just too ridiculous. Only after people are dead do you know regret? I looked at him, put away the jade pendant, and also put away the last trace of expression on my face. Xiaoshuan, I didn't come here today to listen to your repentance. I just want to tell you, I, Ye Zhao Zhao, have returned. What you owe me, what you owe the Ye family, I've collected it all back, bit by bit. From now on, just rot to death in this prison cell. Life after life, never to be reborn. After saying that, I turned around and walked out without looking back. Behind me came Xiaoshan's heart-wrenching cries and wails. I didn't turn back. Between him and me, 2 lifetimes of entanglement, grudges, and affections. At this moment, a final period was drawn. Walking out of the imperial clan court, the sunlight was blinding. I raised my head, looking at the azure sky. I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Great vengeance has been repaid. I can finally start living for myself. After Xiaoshan was deposed, Crown Prince Xiaoshe oversaw the state. The emperor's health grew worse by the day. He was probably heartbroken by what Xiaoshuan had done, and it exhausted his last bit of spirit and energy. Half a year later, the old emperor passed away. Crown Prince Xiaoche ascended to the throne as a matter of course. He changed the era name to Yong'an. The first thing he did upon ascending the throne was to issue an edict to clear the name of my Yi family. He posthumously granted my grandfather the title of Duke of Loyalty and Valor. My father Yi Jiangde was promoted to general who stabilizes the nation, and my elder brother Yi Mingyuan became the new champion marquis. The Yi family had reached the peak of glory. Everyone thought that next emperor would issue an edict to make me the empress. After all, in the matter of bringing down Xiaoshan, I had rendered great service. The new emperor and I could also be considered to have a life and death bond. Entering the central palace seemed to be a done deal. Even my father and brother had asked me about it several times in a roundabout way. I just smiled and said nothing. Empress, in my previous life, I had sat in that position. It is unbearably cold at the top. Those endless palace walls imprisoned not only the body, but even more so the heart. I didn't want to live that kind of life again. After Xiaoche ascended the throne, he sent someone to deliver an invitation to me. Not in the capacity of emperor, but in the capacity of an old friend. He asked me to meet him once more at the Green Maple Forest. Still that same little pavilion, still that same pot of clear tea. Only this time he was no longer that sickly crown prince sitting in a wheelchair. He wore a black dragon robe. His posture was upright, and though his face was still pale, it now carried an air of majesty that ruled over all under heaven. He had completely rid himself of the troubles of his weak body. The life pill my mother left behind was truly a miraculous medicine. He saw me and smiled. You are here, Your Majesty. I bowed properly and respectfully. He waved his hand, gesturing for me to sit down. In front of me, there is no need for such formality. He personally poured me a cup of tea and pushed it in front of me. I've always wanted to ask you something. His gaze was gentle yet profound. What do you want? The position of Empress, enormous wealth, or generations of honor for the Ye family? As long as you ask, I can give you all of it. I looked at him without answering immediately. I picked up the teacup and took a small sip. The tea's fragrance was crisp and clear, just like our first meeting. Your Majesty. I put down the teacup, looked at him, my eyes incomparably clear. I don't want anything. Xiao Che froze. He probably didn't expect this would be my answer. I smiled and continued. What I wanted, Your Majesty has already given me. My enemy brought to justice, my family safe and sound. That is enough. As for the position of Empress, I shook my head. Those palace walls are too high. I don't want to go back in there again. I want to go to the borderlands. I want to see the sunset in the great desert. I want to ride swift horses on the grasslands. I want to live a few days freely and without constraint. These were my true feelings after experiencing so much. I had long since grown indifferent to power and wealth. I just wanted to live once for myself, freely and thoroughly. Xiao Che looked at me quietly, silent for a long while. In his eyes flashed complicated emotions I couldn't understand. There was admiration, there was regret, and there was a faint sense of loss. Finally, he nodded. All right. I grant your request. He took out a golden medallion from his sleeve and handed it to me. On the golden medallion was carved a lifelike dragon. This is my token. Whoever sees this medallion shall treat it as my presence. Throughout the lands of Great Zhou, you may go wherever you wish. No one will dare stop you. I didn't decline and accepted the medallion. Thank you, Your Majesty. There is one more thing. Xiao Che looked at me, his eyes becoming incredibly solemn. The third promise between you and me. I, Xiao Che, swear in the name of the Son of Heaven of Great Zhou. As long as I remain on the throne, I will protect the Yi family. Ruler and subject in harmony, a good beginning and a good end. I will never go back on my word. I stood up and, facing him, performed a deep bow. Yi Zhao Zhao on behalf of the entire Yi family. Thanks, Your Majesty. This bow was from the bottom of my heart. I believe him. A person who also crawled back from hell. A person who experienced life and death and betrayal. He will be a good emperor. Between us, there are no romantic feelings. Only the most solid bond of ruler and subject, the friendship of allies. This way is very good. The day I left the capital city was a clear day. Clear autumn skies, light clouds, and gentle wind. Father and brother saw me off to the Tenli Pavilion. Father's eyes were rimmed with red. Zhao Zhao, when you get to the borderlands, take good care of yourself. Whenever I have time, I'll come see you. I nodded and straightened his collar for him. Dad, you too. Now that the court is stable, you should rest too. Don't overwork yourself. My older brother, Yi Mingyuan, handed me a large package. Inside here are various medicinal salves and dried provisions I've prepared for you. Also, there's a new sword I forged for you, better than your old one. He patted my shoulder, laughing heartily. Go on. Go live the life you want to live. At home, Father and I are here. I looked at them and smiled. My eyes, however, grew a bit moist. How wonderful. My family is still here, and I am still their precious jewel. I didn't bring Chintao with me. I gave her a large sum of money and had her marry a steward in the household, so she could live a stable life. I only brought a horse and a simple pack. I mounted the horse and waved at Father and my brother. Father, brother, I am leaving now. With that, I spurred the horse and rode off in a cloud of dust. I headed north, through bustling towns, across desolate ancient roads. I saw the water towns of Jiaonan, hazy with misty rain, and I saw the mountains and rivers of the northern lands, magnificent and vast. I became a wandering hero, punishing tyrants who oppressed the common people, and helped disaster victims who were displaced and homeless. With the sword in my hand and the gold medal in my arms, I did many things that in my previous life I wanted to do but couldn't. My heart during this long journey became more and more open, more and more free. A year later, I arrived at Yanmen Pass. This was the place where my father and brother had guarded for half their lives. The wind and sand was strong, hitting my face like knives, but it also blew away the last trace of gloom in my heart. I settled down here. I didn't go to the military camp, but instead built a small courtyard not far outside the pass. I opened up a few acres of fields and raised some chickens and ducks. In my leisure time, I would ride my horse and gallop across the grasslands, or climb up the city tower and watch that great river's setting sun perfectly round. My brother would occasionally come to see me, bringing me news from the capital city. Hai said the new emperor was diligent and loved the people, reduced taxes, granted general amnesty, and won the people's hearts. Great Zhou, under his governance, enjoyed peace and prosperity, flourishing day by day. He also said that the new emperor to this day had not established an empress. In the imperial harem, there were only a few concubines. I listened and just smiled. These things had nothing to do with me anymore. It was another dusk. I sat in the courtyard, drinking fruit wine. I brewed myself, watching the sunset clouds on the horizon. A travel-worn traveler, leading a thin horse, walked up to my courtyard gate. He wore a bamboo hat, his face unclear. He stopped in his tracks and looked up at the plaque on my courtyard gate, which I had written myself. On the plaque were only 2 characters, New Life. He seemed to let out a soft laugh, then took off his bamboo hat, revealing a face that I thought I would never see again, refined, gentle, yet carrying the weariness of a journey. It was Shao Qi, number now. He should be called Li Qi or Wang Qi, in any case no longer the son of heaven of Great Zhou. I froze. How could he be here? Shouldn't he be in the imperial palace, being his peaceful sovereign? He looked at me, smiling like a child. What? Don't recognize me anymore? Or am I not welcome? I snapped back to my senses and smiled too. I stood up and fetched another wine cup from inside the house. I walked up to him and handed him the wine cup. Didn't you say that when sovereign and subject understand each other, they should see it through to the end? What is this? Got tired of being emperor. He took the wine cup, poured himself a drink, and downed it in one gulp. The harsh liquor made him cough a few times. That is right. He looked at me, his eyes shining as bright as the stars in the sky. I am tired of it. The kingdom, I've already managed it well for all the people. What is left should be my turn now. I came to ask you one thing. What is it? He looked at me, his gaze incredibly serious. I've seen this world. Now I want to see you. May I? The afterglow of the setting sun stretched our shadows long, so long. I looked at him, at the undisguised, sincere and fervent hope in his eyes. I smiled. A brilliant smile from the bottom of my heart. I raised my wine cup and gently clinked it against his. It made a crisp sound. You may. When writing this story, I kept thinking about one question. What does it really mean to win? Is it making the scumbag lose everything, his reputation ruined and family destroyed? Is it making the mistress never able to rise again? Is it taking back all the money and status that were taken away? These are all winning, but they're not the most important kind of winning. The most important win is what the female lead said at the end. I want to live a few days freely and without restraint. She didn't choose to become Empress, didn't choose to stay at the center of power. She chose to go to the borderlands, to watch the sunset, to ride fast horses, to live the life she wanted to live. This is the core message I wanted to convey. The purpose of revenge is not for hatred, but to let go, not to make the other party suffer, but to set yourself free. Too many girls tie their lives to some man. When they love him, they give him everything. When they hate him, they lose everything because of him. Whether it is love or hate, both are forms of binding. But true liberation is, I don't care about you anymore. You hurt me before, but you don't matter anymore. In my life, there will be no place for you ever again. This was Yi Zhao's final choice. She didn't marry the new emperor, didn't stay in the capital city to enjoy wealth and glory. She rode her horse and went to the vast and open borderlands. Because she finally understood the best revenge is living your own life well.